for the American people who are watching this process. I tried my very best to take the expertise of an AG who understands issues better than others. I worked really hard with folks who was a county supervisor as I was to understand the local impact and community banks. We've done a very good job of putting it together. Now I'm a little long-winded if I wanted to be a preacher like Warnock. But it didn't work out for me. God didn't call me to that. He didn't call me to that.
Mr. Chair, stay in your lane.
Yes. Someone should say amen before he takes up an offering. But I'm just, here's the point. Here's the point. This is a real opportunity to move the ball forward. For a lot of people in a lot of places, that's losing confidence in American institutions. Let's not demonize because it's easy. Let's work together because it's hard and important. Senator Lummis.
Mr. Chairman, I have a point of order.
Certainly.
Thank you. And I agree with you. I think we need to continue to move forward. And so in that vein, my question is, so we don't run afoul of this in the future, is the amendment Cortez Masto 16 was ruled out of order.
Yes.
And can you explain why it was out of order? That would help me in the future.
Certainly. We asked all amendments to be written to the ANS, and the amendments were written to the Friday Clarity Act. Friday when we released the legislation, we asked the amendments to be written to the substitute language.
Right. And it was?
It was not.
How was it not? That would be helpful, just so I know.
It was written to the HR, and it is a strike and replace of text in the HR that was not in there because it's in the ANS. We talked to the floor, and they said if they had received an amendment like this, that it's a strike and replace, that it's written as a put in the appropriate place, it would not have been accepted on the floor.
So just so we have a clarification for the future for all
Certainly.
of us, so we don't get caught in
Yes, yes.
this or that, these are ours. I asked the parliamentarian if this was out of order, and she said no. And so I do think it will be helpful in the future so that we don't get caught up in this craziness and we still can move forward as a body that works together on amendments, has conversation, discussion, that we have an understanding of these amendments. So I just appreciate you taking my point of order.
Absolutely.
And for the record, I will submit the parliamentarian's response to the question that I had about my amendment number 16.
Without objection.
Thank
we,
you.
We will submit our conversation with the parliamentarian as well. Senator Lummis, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to start by a casual conversation among friends that are around this dais. Mr. Warner, thank you so much for working so hard on this bill over the last 9 months. Senator Cortez Masto, thank you. You brought a level of expertise on illicit finance that none of the rest of us had. And I want to thank you so much for that. Your thoughts, Mr. Warnock, throughout the last 9 months have been additive to what I think is a very good bill. Mr. Gallego has worked tirelessly behind the scenes on multiple issues that are involved in this legislation. And I want to single out Senator Also Brooks for her tremendous time commitment and work with Mr. Tillis on the language that has helped bring this bill to the floor today on the concerns that the banking industry had about the Genius Act. This has been a bipartisan dialogue that has gone on for 9 months. It has been almost tireless. And Mr. Marino, Mr. Tillis, Mr. Kennedy, honest. And especially Senator Scott, who has kept us on track for 9 months. This is the hardest piece of legislation I've ever worked on. I served 14 years in the Wyoming legislature, 8 years as state treasurer and now 14 years in the Congress. This is by far the hardest piece of legislation I've ever worked on. And your colleague, Kirsten Gillibrand, said the same thing. And she has more experience than I do in the US Senate. And it's because this is a case of first impression. This is a very new commodity and security. And it takes time to craft something to address the innovation that has been brought about through blockchain technology. And that's why it's taken such a bipartisan effort, heavy lift, lots of negotiations, involvement from those people who are in the industry. And it has morphed since we began this bill 5 years ago because the industry has matured over those years. This is new. And to have something this innovative come to us via legislation today really is quite remarkable. So I want to thank the people in this room, both in the audience and at the table, for their tireless dedication. Treasury, the White House, the industry, we have all worked hard together. And I pledge to you, we will continue to work hard together after today and before this bill hits the floor to address that maybe 1% of the remaining issues that didn't come to fruition before today, in spite of our round-the-clock negotiations. This is America's innovation of the 250th anniversary of our Constitution. There's been nothing like it in our history. This bill continues the legacy of America by ensuring innovation happens here on US soil under clear pro-growth, pro-consumer guidelines. And I can't resist, Mr. Chairman, when I was listening to the ranking member, the risks of which she spoke exist now, right now, because there is no regulatory framework. There is no way now that this industry can protect the good actors, discover, vet, and punish the bad actors, and create a playing field with clear regulation, both at the SEC and the CFTC, that everyone can play under and continue to innovate. We can return this industry to the United States because the majority of it has already left for overseas because this legislation wasn't ready until today. Let me go through a couple of the things that we have done to strengthen and address some of the issues that have been raised. Regard to anti-money laundering and illicit finance, it creates risk-based exam standards. It expands Treasury's special measure authority to act swiftly against foreign money laundering. It creates studies on mixers and tumblers. It requires annual Treasury reports on foreign jurisdictions' compliance with US AML CFT standards. It requires recurring Treasury reports on offshore stablecoins. It requires mandatory educational materials on digital asset risks, insider resale restrictions to prevent pump and dump schemes. It has timely disclosure requirements, broker deal insolvency disclosures, a federal regulatory floor for crypto kiosks. This is very important. This has been a problem in my state. Tokenized securities remain securities under SEC jurisdiction. FTC authority over unfair or deceptive practices. $30 million per year through 2031 for FinCEN. With regard to fraud and AML provisions, temporary holds for suspicious activities and preventing those who place the holds from having private causes of action. It applies BSA regulation to digital asset brokers, dealers, and exchanges. This list goes on and on. This is a pro-law enforcement bill. And it's also a pro-consumer bill. Consumers can now transmit money between them faster and cheaper than they can now. It provides a level playing field regardless of whether you live in Rwanda or Queens, New York, about transmitting money faster and cheaper. It provides a woman who's trying to get out of a battered, miserable marriage the opportunity to walk away with her money in her head. It provides people who are being tortured in foreign countries the opportunity to walk away from that country with their money in their head, because Bitcoin can be memorized. This is an innovation that provides individual freedom, individual savings. It is faster, cheaper, it is secure, and we're inviting that consumer environment into our country under a very clearly articulated set of rules. And it's because of all the work that has gone into this by the people in this room. I absolutely pledge that I will work with you before this bill gets to the floor. We know those few remaining little items that we have to work on together. I trust you, and I want you to trust me to see this process through, because we know when we work together that we can create a product that we can be proud of and the American people can be proud of. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Tillis.
Very quick, Mr. Chairman. Senator Lummis did a wonderful job. I just want to reinforce a couple of things. You know, quite honestly, when I heard the ranking member talk, I thought I'd teleported into a parallel universe where we were talking about a different bill that was being negotiated. This bill has all of the attributes that Senator Lummis discussed. That's why AARP has endorsed it. That's why law enforcement supports it, because the status quo, quite honestly, is unacceptable. Not to mention the competitive threat that we have for foreign jurisdictions just to take the money elsewhere, and then we're aiding and abetting and expanding the use of illicit finance through this tool. But I don't need to get into those merits or the merits of the bill anymore. I just want to thank Senator Brooks. I want to thank Senator Gallego. I want to thank Senator Cortez Masto, who really opened my eyes to some of the prosecutorial issues that I, as a non-attorney, hadn't paid attention to. Senator Warner, Senator Warnock. Yeah, I've done a lot of bipartisan bills in my time in the Senate. And the only way this works is a bipartisan vote out of this committee to get all these things that are in this bill moving. But the Democrats have ball control. They control the motion to proceed. Like Senator Lummis, I'm committed to work in good faith. And I think I've proven that multiple times when it was tough for a Republican to lead something. And I'm going to do it again here. But let's get the momentum out of this committee. But finally, and I have to tell, I told Senator Brooks this morning, what a joy it's been to work with her staff. And the one group here, we've talked about the stakeholders, we've talked about the folks from the White House, but we should all give our staff who have gotten here before us and left here after us for all of the hard work that they've done. And we owe them the respect of reporting this out on a bipartisan basis today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Reed, and this will be the last comment. Senator Warren has just helped me remember that some members have to go to other committees and we should get to the amendments. Senator Reed, the floor is yours.
I'll be very brief, Mr. Chairman. I've heard both you and Senator Lummis speak eloquently about working together. I've been on this committee almost 30 years. The definition of working together at a markup is allowing amendments to be called up and voted upon. The vote determines where we go forward. And what I've never witnessed anything like this in these 30 years. We're just arbitrarily eliminating amendments, telling people they can't bring them up or modify them to be brought up. And I'm willing to work together, but this is not an example of working together. Thank you.
I move to call up HR 3633, the Digital Asset Market Clarity Act of 2025, and ask unanimous consent that we dispense with the reading of all amendments. Senators will find printed copies in front of them, the text of which has already been made available. Is there an objection? Without objection, so ordered. I move to consideration of the manager's amendment, Scott Amendment Number 1. It is an amendment, the nature of the substitute to HR 3633. I ask that Scott Amendment Number 1, the substitute amendment, be adopted and considered as original text for purposes of further amendment. I ask that the amendment be adopted by voice vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
Ayes have it. The ayes have it, and the amendment is agreed to. I now call up rounds 133. Senator Rounds, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My amendment, number 133, I have with co-sponsor Senators Kim and Warner, and I would thank them for their participation in this. This amendment would require financial regulatory agencies to establish AI innovation labs or sandboxes. These will enable regulated financial institutions to experiment with AI test projects without expectation of enforcement action, taking a balanced approach that encourages both innovation and responsible adoption of AI. This amendment would create a venue, a sandbox for institutions to safety test and experiment with cutting-edge technologies while allowing regulators to learn about the tools that will transform financial services. It closely aligns with the purpose of the bill we are considering today, which is why I urge my colleagues to support this amendment. And I thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I would ask for a vote.
Right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to be recognized on this amendment. Is
Okay.
that all right?
60 seconds. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this amendment would establish a sandbox, as Senator Rounds says, for artificial intelligence products and services in the financial sector. Look, I appreciate my colleagues' interest in this issue, but boy, I am not ready to support this proposal. This is not the place to make decisions about AI regulation. The committee should hold hearings on the implications of AI. We should have a debate about the policy options. I am happy to work with my colleagues to see if there's a version of this amendment that we can support, but this provision is not there yet. And I don't think a track record of these sandboxes over the past decade in financial technology or fintech context should give us much confidence that that actually turns out to have good results for the American people and that it ensures safe innovation for AI. So I think this is way too big for a little amendment like this and opens doors we should not be opening without a much fuller discussion and hearings. So I would urge my colleagues to vote no on rounds 133.
The clerk will call the roll. Aye.
Mr. Crapo? Aye. Mr. Rounds? Aye. Mr. Tillis?
Aye.
Mr. Kennedy? Aye. Mr. Haggerty?
Haggerty's aye.
Ms. Lummis? Aye. Mrs. Britt? Aye. Mr. Ricketts? Aye. Mr. Banks? Aye. Mr. Kramer? Aye. Mr. Moreno? Aye. Mr. McCormick?
Aye.
Ms. Warren?
No.
Mr. Reed?
No?
Mr. Warner?
Aye.
Mr. Van Hollen?
No by proxy.
Ms. Cortez Masto?
No.
Ms. Smith?
No.
Mr. Warnock?
No.
Mr. Kim?
Aye.
Mr. Gallego?
No.
Ms. Blunt Rochester?
No.
Ms. Also Brooks?
No.
The vote is 15 in favor and 9 opposed.
The amendment is agreed to. I now call up Warren number 74.
So let's talk about some of the people who will be hurt by a bill that supercharges the crypto industry without guardrails. People saving for retirement and people with pension plans. The current draft fails to address one of the biggest concerns that retirees face in this bill, the tokenization loophole. This country's biggest workers' unions and groups representing the largest pension funds have said that this is a catastrophic problem. Under this bill, companies could escape basic securities laws by raising money through tokens rather than traditional securities like stock, exposing Americans to a host of risks by removing necessary investor protections. The bill also kneecaps federal and state law enforcement authorities' ability to crack down on crypto fraud and scams. In other words, this bill sets up investors to be defrauded with no recourse. My amendment would require investment advisors and other entities in the financial system to develop and implement processes to protect investors from the heightened risk posed by crypto before recommending it to Americans looking to invest their hard-earned money. Every member of this committee should agree with this simple fix to protect our investors, and I urge my colleagues to support Warren Amendment 74.
Someone who wants to be recognized for rebuttal? Rebuttals are only 60 seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This amendment would single out digital assets for a special presumption of noncompliance and create unnecessary litigation risk. This amendment should not be adopted. It requires fiduciaries to implement special processes to protect clients from digital asset risks or be presumed to have violated their fiduciary duty. Current fiduciary standards already require intermediaries to act in their clients' best interests, making this amendment unnecessary.
Clerk will call the roll.
Chairman,
No?
Mr. Crapo?
No.
Mr. Rounds?
No.
Mr. Tillis?
No.
Mr. Kennedy?
No.
Mr. Haggerty?
Haggerty's no.
Ms. Lummis? No. Mrs. Britt? No. Mr. Ricketts? No. Mr. Banks? Mr. Kramer?
No.
Mr. Moreno? No. Mr. McCormick? No. Ms. Warren?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Aye.
Mr. Warner?
Aye.
Mr. Van Hollen?
Aye by proxy.
Ms. Cortez Masto? Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Warnock?
Aye.
Mr. Kim?
Aye.
Mr. Gallego?
Aye.
Ms. Blunt Rochester?
Aye.
Ms. Also Brooks?
Aye.
The vote is 11 in favor and 13 opposed.
The amendment is not agreed to. We'll now go to Britt 14. Senator Britt, you are now recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to offer Brit number 14, my amendment regarding 403B savings accounts. This bill is bipartisan. It is very simple. It is widely supported. It allows employees of nonprofit organizations like public school teachers, ministers, nurses. It allows them the same access to the 401k retirement plans that most Americans can enjoy. CITs offer a wider investment vehicle along with lower fees and even higher returns, and this will allow them to participate in that. This levels the playing field so that more hardworking Americans can access more investment options and ultimately retire sooner. I want to thank Senator Warnock for leading this standalone bill with me and a number of my colleagues here on this committee, both Democrat and Republican, who have co-sponsored it. I am committed to finding a vehicle for this to move. I'm also committed to making sure that the Clarity Act moves out today. So we will look for a different vehicle and we'll continue to build support. I withdraw my amendment, but look forward to working with the chair and the ranking member to actually get this done.
Thank you very much. And I'll call up Warren 64.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this bill that we're looking at fails to address foundational gaps on money laundering responsibilities for conventional crypto businesses and for DeFi services. And even for the very worst platforms, this bill fails to restore sanctions authority to isolate them. While we're at war, Iran is openly gearing up to collect crypto fees from oil tankers to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. Terrorist groups, rogue states, foreign adversaries, and criminals are using crypto to evade our sanctions and launder their money. According to industry analysts, crypto crime jumped at least $154 billion last year, driven in large part by a 694% increase in crypto funds sent to sanctioned entities. Sanctioned entities are receiving these. Look, we need to fix the hole in our sanctions authority and crack down on crypto money laundering. In 2022, the United States sanctioned a notorious mixer called Tornado Cash that had been used to launder more than $7 billion for criminals and foreign adversaries, including more than $450 million for a North Korean hacking group. These types of crypto services are designed to make it easy to launder a huge pile of money and making it hard for anyone, including our law enforcement officials, to tell where the money came from. They are a favorite tool for hackers, for terrorist groups, and for sanctioned regimes. But a court said Treasury needed Congress, us, to act before it would be able to sanction the mixers like Tornado Cash. So this amendment is simple. It restores the authority to isolate and sanction decentralized crypto platforms that repeatedly facilitate transactions with terrorist organizations like ISIS or Al-Qaeda, or with North Korea, Russia, or Iran. And I urge my colleagues to support this amendment.
Senator Lummis for a rebut.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The reason that's happening is because this bill is not law. When this bill becomes law, it includes robust provisions in Titles 2 and 3 to address illicit finance and sanctions. And it focuses these provisions where they'll be most effective. For example, it provides law enforcement with the tools they need to trace and disrupt money laundering, and clarifies sanctions and anti-money laundering requirements for digital asset entities. We want to discourage the illegitimate use of digital assets while encouraging the legitimate use. And we have found that balance in this bill. This amendment is not necessary. I urge that we oppose the amendment.
Mr. Chairman.
Kennedy?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, Senator Kennedy.
Do I have your permission to ask Senator Warren a quick question?
15 seconds.
Yes, sir.
It'll take them that long to clear.
Senator Warren,
Yeah.
I don't understand why this bill doesn't already accomplish the very worthy goal that you've articulated.
Chairman, may I answer?
15 seconds.
It's the tornado problem. You remember tornado, the mixer. What this amendment does is it says that the government can sanction and wall off a mixer like Tornado. What purpose does Tornado serve except to hide where the money came from and where the money's going to? And who needs to hide where the money came from and where the money's going to? It's the terrorists, it's the money launderers, it's Iran, it's the sanctioned entities. So all this is doing is it's saying, let's give the power, it doesn't actually isolate them in the bill. Let's give the power to government to say, when this is what you're doing, they can isolate you when you're dealing with these bad actors. You're mixing up the money so that you advance money laundering.
Senator Lummis, and then we'll move to the vote.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. This bill provides for a study of the use of mixes and tumblers. They're a very complicated entity. Plus, provides $30 million to FinCEN, which does have the expertise to unravel mixes and tumblers, and already has the tools it needs to enforce.
Yeah. Can I just say on that? Yes, they have the expertise, but they don't have the legal authority. A court has said they need legal authority from Congress so that they will be able to isolate these mixers. Right now, they can't do that. So put your money in if you're a terrorist. Go use Tornado and know that there will be virtually no chance of being caught. And that this is how Iran can stay in the game and keep using its money.
All right.
This is how North Korea stays in. I'm sorry.
Certainly. Rebut, Senator Lummis. Bill solves that problem?
Yes, Title II and III. And it's in illicit finance sanctions focus on providing law enforcement with the tools they need to trace and disrupt money laundering, including mixes
A
and
study.
tumblers. Well, the law enforcement tools are also in this bill.
Clerk, call the roll. No?
Mr. Crapo?
No.
Mr. Rounds?
No.
Mr. Tillis? Mr. Kennedy?
No.
Mr. Haggerty?
Haggerty's no.
Ms. Lummis?
No,
Mrs. Britt? Mr. Ricketts? Mr. Banks? Mr. Kramer?
No.
Mr. Moreno? Mr. McCormick?
No.
Ms. Warren?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Warner? Mr. Van Hollen?
Yes, by proxy.
Ms. Cortez Masto? Ms. Smith? Mr. Warnock? Mr. Kim? Mr. Gallego? Ms. Blunt Rochester? Ms. Also Brooks?
Aye.
The vote is 11 in favor and 13 opposed.
The amendment is not adopted. We now call up McCormick, 115. Senator McCormick, you are now recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To have the opportunity to introduce my amendment 115, co-sponsored with Senator Bill Haggerty. There's a long history of bipartisan support for the SEC and CFTC to provide for portfolio margining. Section 402 of the Digital Asset Market Clarity Act directs the SEC and the CFTC to jointly issue rules that enable portfolio margining across securities, swaps, futures, and digital commodity accounts held by registered dealers, FCMs, or brokers. This section is intended to allow natural risk offsets among positions to be recognized and would create greater efficiencies for investors to manage risk. However, for the portfolio margining to function properly, changes are necessary to ensure that customer protections under the Securities Investor Protection Act, SIPA, carry to CFTC regulated products in the event that a broker dealer becomes insolvent. This amendment I'm offering today gives the SEC and CFTC the flexibility to write rules relating to SIPA with consultation from SIPC and Treasury on expanded security portfolio margin accounts. Not only is this essential for customer protection during times of market stress, but the amendment also explicitly prohibits SIPC advances from covering digital commodities or swap positions which protect traditional securities customers. Digital assets are being folded into the fabric of the financial system. This amendment recognizes that reality, and its passage is important to every single market participant, the banks, crypto, and customers. This amendment is the result of working closely with both Treasury and SIPC and represents a bipartisan agreement with my Democratic colleagues. I would ask to be adopted by voice, but I'm open to a roll call vote, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Mr. Chairman.
Voice, if everybody,
I'd like to respond, if I
certainly.
could. Thank you. Section 402 of this bill directs the CFTC and SEC to issue a joint rulemaking that will facilitate portfolio margining across a wide variety of categories of a lot of diverse instruments, including crypto. Now, as everyone here knows, portfolio margining allows calculation of margin requirements based on the overall portfolio rather than by individual position, and it has the effect of lowering margin requirements for trading. Lower margin requirements increase leverage and therefore increase risk in the system. Excessive leverage in our financial system has time and time again been a culprit in crashes that harm not just our financial markets, but spread to the real economy. The bill is set to unleash unregulated crypto upon our economy. It would also increase leverage across a range of different asset classes and regulatory regimes. I appreciate that Amendment 115 takes some steps toward protecting consumers from the havoc of this new regime, but it is not enough. The amendment further seems to remove SIPC protections from accounts with crypto, which highlights one of the real paradoxes in this bill. It pushes more of the market into crypto and removes protections for investors and removes recourse for victims. That is the wrong direction to go in.
All righty.
When this blows up at the economy, I hope everybody remembers. their
Mr.
vote.
Chairman. Actually, we're out of time, actually.
There.
I'm going to stick with our 2 minutes, 1 minute as much as possible. Voice vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Actually, I'd like to have a recorded vote on this. I think this one's going to matter in history.
Clerk will call the roll. Aye.
Mr. Crapo?
Aye.
Mr. Rounds?
Aye.
Mr. Tillis? Mr. Kennedy? Mr. Haggerty?
Haggerty's aye.
Ms. Lummis? Mrs. Britt? Mr. Ricketts? Mr. Banks?
Aye by proxy.
Mr. Kramer? Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mr. McCormick?
Aye.
Ms. Warren?
No,
Mr. Reed? Mr. Warner? Mr. Van Hollen?
No.
Ms. Cortez Masto? Ms. Smith? Mr. Warnock? Mr. Kim? Mr. Geigo? Ms. Blunt Rochester? Ms. Alsobrooks?
Aye.
The vote is 18 in favor and 6 opposed.
The amendment has been adopted. We now call up Warren 52.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. So when banks take excessive risks in pursuit of windfall profits, we know what happens next. The bets blow up, businesses on Main Street are shuttered, workers lose their jobs and retirement savings, families are thrown out of their homes, and the economy goes into recession. Oh, and then Wall Street comes to Congress and begs for bailouts and gets them. That's why our laws are supposed to keep the banks safe and sound, in part by limiting the kinds of assets that banks can own and the activities they can conduct. There are plenty of traditional assets that banks are prohibited from owning and traditional activities that banks are prohibited from conducting. This bill would throw out these sensible restrictions on crypto assets. For example, the bill allows banks to transact in the wild west of decentralized finance, where a platform seems to face a run, get hacked, or otherwise implode pretty much every week. The bill also allows banks to lend against crypto as collateral, to own crypto directly, to trade crypto derivatives, and more. The bill also repeals a key pillar of the Dodd-Frank Act for digital assets, known as the Volcker Rule. The bill allows bank holding companies to buy and sell digital assets for any investment or trading purpose, including the type of dangerous proprietary trading and hedge fund activities that helped cause the 2008 crash. Look, innocent businesses and families that have never even heard of the blockchain will suffer if the next crypto crash also causes a banking crash. My amendment would strike these dangerous provisions from the bill. I urge my colleagues to vote for Warren 52.
60 seconds.
Thank you,
Senator
Mr.
Lummis.
Chairman. There are 3 states that already allow banks to do this. One is Virginia, Wyoming, Louisiana. And after this bill passes, other states will allow it to do it. The bank permissibility language in our legislation does one thing. It simply confirms that banks can use digital assets to conduct activities that they already allow to perform by law. The US dollar is going to be digitized. It is going to be a digital asset. And so we need to integrate all of these assets into the banks that are allowed to do them to continue to do them. There are no special carve-outs. This amendment would strike three key provisions of the bill related to bank permissibility, portfolio margining, and netting agreements. I urge my colleagues to oppose this amendment.
Clerk will call the roll.
The chairman,
Nope.
Mr. Crapo?
Nope.
Mr. Rounds?
Nope.
Mr. Tillis?
No.
Mr. Kennedy?
No.
Mr. Haggerty?
Haggerty's no.
Ms. Lummis?
No.
Mrs. Britt? Mr. Ricketts? Mr. Banks?
No by proxy?
Mr. Kramer?
No.
Mr. Moreno? Mr. McCormick? Ms. Warren?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Aye.
Mr. Warner?
Aye.
Mr. Van Hollen?
Aye.
Ms. Cortez Masto? Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Warnock?
Aye.
Mr. Kim? Mr. Gallego? Ms. Blunt Rochester? Ms. Alsobrooks?
Aye.
The vote is 11 in favor and 13 opposed.
The amendment is not agreed to. We now call up Warren 66.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Jeffrey Epstein was an early backer of crypto. He poured millions of dollars into Coinbase, one of the biggest benefactors of this bill, if it becomes law. And that's no surprise. Epstein recognized crypto's potential as a tool to covertly facilitate illicit payments. But as the crypto ecosystem was new and just developing, Wall Street banks were happy to provide the financial services that Epstein needed to facilitate his crimes. You might think that big banks would have severed their ties with Epstein following his 2008 conviction for soliciting a child for sex, and you would be wrong. For more than a decade, banks like JP Morgan, Deutsche Bank, and Bank of America generated massive fees off of Epstein's business while ignoring very obvious red flags. It wasn't until Epstein was arrested once again in 2019 that JP Morgan finally disclosed more than 4,700 transactions made between 1998 and 2013, totaling more than $1 billion, including payments to Russian banks and young women. I have called on President Trump's bank regulators to use their authorities to investigate the bank executives that helped facilitate Jeffrey Epstein's crimes and to turn over any information they have gathered over the years to Congress. And so far, they haven't lifted a finger. This amendment would require the federal banking regulators to publish any bank examination records related to Epstein and his co-conspirators. What did the banks know and when did they know it? Did bank regulators spot anything that should have set off alarms? Answers to those questions may be buried in the banking regulators' confidential supervisory records. Some sunlight might help prevent Wall Street and crypto companies from funding the next Jeffrey Epstein. I urge my colleagues to support Warren 66.
Mr. Chairman, confidential supervisory information is not germane to digital asset market structure. The Epstein files have nothing to do with this bill. I urge my colleagues to oppose the amendment.
Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question?
The point of order?
Sure. I just wanted to ask Senator Warren, how are you defining co-conspirators?
This is exactly what we want to find out. When you don't have the information, you don't know. But what we do know is that Jeffrey Epstein was using crypto early on, that he was involved in illicit financial transactions, that three of the largest financial institutions.
I'm sorry, I
Thank you.
get that. But you say the regulators have to release stuff about Epstein and his co-conspirators. How are they going to know who his co-conspirators are?
Well, they have already been named in court documents. One is identified is Ghislaine Maxwell. as an identified convicted co-conspirator. And I think her record should be released as well.
I look forward to you all continuing this conversation after the hearing. Clerk will call the roll. No.
Mr. Crapo?
No.
Mr. Rounds? Mr. Tillis? Mr. Kennedy? Mr. Haggerty?
Haggerty's no.
Ms. Lummis? Mrs. Britt? Mr. Ricketts? Mr. Banks?
No by proxy.
Mr. Kramer? Mr. Moreno?
No.
Mr. McCormick?
No.
Ms. Warren?
Yes.
Mr. Reed? Mr. Warner? Mr. Van Hollen? Ms. Cortez Masto? Ms. Smith? Mr. Warnock? Mr. Kim? Mr. Gallego? Ms. Blunt Rochester? Ms. Also Brooks?
Aye.
The vote is 11 in favor and 13 opposed.
The amendment is not agreed to. We will now move to,
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to get in trouble again, I
Yes,
know,
sir.
but I've got another point of order. I would consider voting for this amendment if you think about taking out co-conspirators.
I'd be glad to amend it. Yes, the author of the amendment accepts the
Well, I-
proposed change.
Mr. Chair, point of order, the vote's been held, the amendment's been disposed of. That would require an additional amendment at this time.
the amendment is not agreed to. We will now move to call up Reed number 90.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My amendment allows the government to block foreign illicit transactions that occur using stable coins as if they were dollars in a bank. This will primarily crack down on Iran's use of stable coins to fund their nuclear program, support terrorist proxies, and engage with our forces at the present time. According to blockchain analytics firm TRM Labs, Iran continues to use cryptocurrency to source sensitive goods. Chinese chip resellers have shown the willingness and capability to supply drone components, electrical equipment, AI critical hardware, et cetera. And these unmanned systems, these drones, are what is wreaking havoc on our forces and our allies in the Persian Gulf today. We've lost 14 Americans and hundreds wounded, and the money can be traced back, much of it, to stablecoins. Now, Iran is also accepting tolls in stablecoins at the Strait of Hormuz, and they're making money on that too. Now, Treasury cannot shut down this operation. Excuse me. They have to go hat in hand to Tether and say, please, Tether, would you voluntarily stop doing this? We need structures. If everyone stands around here and talks about how much they support the troops, if you really support the troops, cut off the funding for the Iranians.
Rebuttal? Senator
Chairman.
Haggerty, please.
Mr. Chairman, the bill that we're voting on today already includes dedicated illicit finance and sanctions provisions for digital assets. Title II and Title III address anti-money laundering, sanctions compliance, information sharing, digital asset kiosks, DeFi risk controls, and other illicit financing risks. The amendment creates a broad extraterritorial rule for dollar-denominated stablecoins. I'm concerned that actually could undermine responsible use of stablecoins abroad. So I'm going to urge my colleagues to oppose Senator Reed's amendment.
Mr. President?
Clerk will call the roll. No.
Mr. Crapo?
No by proxy.
Mr. Rounds? Mr. Tillis? Mr. Kennedy? Mr. Haggerty?
Haggerty's no.
Ms. Lummis? Mrs. Britt? Mr. Ricketts? Mr. Banks? Mr. Kramer? Mr. Moreno? Mr. McCormick?
No.
Ms. Warren?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Aye.
Mr. Warner?
Aye.
Mr. Van Hollen? Ms. Cortez Masto? Ms. Smith? Mr. Warnock? Mr. Kim? Mr. Gallego? Ms. Blunt Rochester? Ms. Also Brooks.
Aye.
The vote is 11 in favor and 13 opposed.
The amendment is not agreed to. We will now move to read number 100. Senator?
Thank you very much, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Chairman. My amendment number 100 attempts to do what I tried to do in the Genius Act, which was to make the US dollar the official currency of the United States of America, and it cannot be replaced by alternatives as legal tender. I was struck when Senator Loomis said that the dollar will be digitized. And I think that's the plan of many people. And if it is digitized, the dollar will no longer be controlled by the Federal Reserve. It'll be controlled by companies like World Financial. And that I don't think is a good development for the United States, our economy, or the world. And my amendment would also ensure that the dollar cannot be supplanted by currencies like the Chinese yuan and others. So I think we've got to move and make this very clear. Everyone will nod and say, of course, the dollar is always going to be the currency of the United States. As I said, as I heard today, the dollar will be digitized. And if we don't recognize that, prepare for it, a shame on us. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Rebuttal?
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Moreno?
this amendment's outside the scope of the bill before us. The Clarity Act is a market structure bill. It does not make crypto legal tender. It does not require any state to accept crypto for taxes. It does not disturb the status of the United States dollar as legal tender. This amendment tries to resolve a broader issue that is not necessary to the framework we are considering today. We should keep the focus on building a workable regulatory structure for digital assets, not add unrelated legal tender language. And on a personal note, in 2016, I became the first person in the United States of America to pay my taxes with Bitcoin to show the capabilities of the technology. Had I met the senator from Rhode Island, I would not have done that, as I paid $3,000 in taxes with 2 Bitcoin. So I would absolutely be in a better spot had I not done that. So we should have met each other back then.
Well, if I may, Mr. Chairman,
You have about 9 seconds.
9 seconds. I just repeat again what Senator Loomis said. Dollars will be digitized. If we don't make it clear that digital currencies can and may supplant the dollar, we'll be in very difficult economic position.
We will move on. I do want to make a note that the $3,000 that you used for the Bitcoin would today be worth how much?
Too soon.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to make sure that point was clear. The clerk will call the roll.
The chairman? Mr. Crapo? Mr. Rounds? Mr. Tillis? Mr. Kennedy? Mr. Haggerty?
Haggerty's no.
Ms. Lummis? Mrs. Britt? Mr. Ricketts? Mr. Banks? Mr. Kramer? Mr. Moreno?
No.
Mr. McCormick?
No.
Ms. Warren?
Aye.
Mr. Reed?
Aye.
Mr. Warner?
Aye.
Mr. Van Hollen?
Aye.
Ms. Cortez Masto? Ms. Smith? Mr. Warnock? Mr. Kim? Mr. Gallego? Ms. Blunt Rochester? Ms. Also Brooks?
Aye.
The vote is 11 in favor and 13 opposed.
Thank you. The amendment is not adopted. We will now call up Warner 131, but to answer the question of Senator Moreno, the answer is $161,774.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to start by thanking you and your staff. We have worked through thousands of hours. I want to particularly thank Senator Lummis. I can't think of a piece of legislation that I've spent more time on. I voted for Genius because I thought we needed a stable coin basis in this country. And I think we need a market structure bill for this country as well. And I will look forward to continuing to work on this past committee. Now, I also though want to take a moment to acknowledge, I think, a continued good faith from the chairman and Senator Lummis. There are a series of bipartisan amendments that we worked on this morning that you've accepted. So I, again, absolutely trust that we can get this done. My amendment, and I just, particularly for my friends sitting in the audience, reflects the language that my Republican colleagues and the White House accepted on DeFi. Now, we have worked dramatically since that time, hearing some of the industry's concerns. We've made over 40 changes, and most of that will be included, I think, in Senator Lummis's amendments. I still think there are some issues to work through, particularly to make sure that law enforcement has the tools it needs to make sure bad actors can't find a way to work around this framework. Make sure senior government officials can't use these tools to enrich themselves. I'm committed to working to get a bill that moves this bill forward on the floor. I guess I've often said I've been in crypto hell the last couple of months. I hope to get to crypto heaven. I guess I'm right now in crypto purgatory, but I'm looking forward to getting all the way there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I withdraw my amendment.
Thank you. I'll now call up, actually, before I do so, we are around 11:45, which means that we're about 17 minutes away from the 2-hour window and would need permission to continue beyond that.
We are glad to continue beyond that.
Great, thank you. I will now call up Senator Van Hollen's number 33.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last year, the volume of digital assets involved in illicit activities blew through all previous records. By one estimate, $154 billion was sent to illicit crypto wallets, up from $59 billion in 2024. Decentralized finance, DeFi services play an important role in this illicit ecosystem. I think we all know that. Bad actors use tools like tumblers and mixers to launder money, evade law enforcement, and move funds. Just look at what North Korean hackers did last year. They hacked $1.5 billion from the crypto exchange Bybit, and then used DeFi services and exchanges to switch between crypto tokens to launder funds and evade investigators. These are funds that can now help support the North Korean nuclear program or other illicit activities. Or look at Iran. Iranian actors have been documented using DeFi exchanges and techniques to launder funds and evade sanctions. In some cases, it's clear that these DeFi tools are created because their developers plan to profit from illicit activity. They know that bad actors will exploit these tools. In fact, that's the whole point for some of them. And so we need to hold them accountable. Addressing the illicit finance risk in DeFi overall is not straightforward. We know that. But this amendment is straightforward, and it's limited and simple. It would simply make it unlawful to release a DeFi protocol for the express purpose of enabling money laundering, sanctions, evasion, and financing of terrorism. That's what it does. There should be consequences if you set out to enable drug traffickers, scammers, North Korea or Iran, and I hope my colleagues will agree with that premise and support this amendment.
Rebuttal?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, in this bill, we've tried to use existing statutes and embed digital assets under them, whether it's the SEC, the CFTC, or criminal penalties. So the same conduct that the gentleman is trying to address is already chargeable today under 18 U.S.C. 1956 and 1957 and existing sanctions laws. So if somebody builds or uses software to launder criminal proceeds or evade sanctions, prosecutors can already bring cases under these statutes without needing a specific DeFi add-on. So if you carve out one thing for specific treatment, it sends a signal that DeFi software is not welcome in this country, and we don't want to send that signal. We want to use the existing strictures and embed digital assets in the U.S. So for that reason, I oppose the amendment.
Clerk will call the roll. No.
Mr. Crapo?
No.
Mr. Rounds?
No.
Mr. Tillis?
No.
Mr. Kennedy,
No by proxy.
Mr. Haggerty,
Haggerty's no.
Ms. Lummis, Mrs. Britt, Mr. Ricketts, Mr. Banks, Mr. Kramer, Mr. Moreno, Mr. McCormick,
No.
Ms. Warren,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Aye.
Mr. Warner,
Aye.
Mr. Van Hollen,
Aye.
Ms. Cortez Masto,
Aye.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Warnock, Mr. Kim, Mr. Gallego, Ms. Blunt Rochester, Ms. Alsobrooks.
Aye.
The vote is 11 in favor and 13 opposed.
The amendment is not agreed to. We will now move to Van Hollen, number 35. Senator Van Hollen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This amendment is straightforward. It's designed to prevent conflict of interests and self-dealing by the president or members of the House or the Senate. It also requires greater transparency. We have all seen the president and members of his family involved in corrupt crypto ventures and various crypto scams. Through World Liberty Financial, the Trump family has raked in billions in profits, much of it obtained through corrupt deals with members of the UAE royal family. In fact, we've heard testimony from witnesses before this committee about that. And the Trump and Melania meme coins have allowed Trump to rake in hundreds of millions, if not more, in cash, even as investors lost $4.3 billion. The way that scam works is that whether retail investors win or lose, Trump is like the house at the casino. He always wins. And what this amendment does is very simple. We're letting the American public know, we're letting the people know that we're not going to allow self-dealing by the president or members of the House and Senate and others who have direct control and influence over these operations, as witnessed by the fact that we're marking up this bill. So the people involved directly in making these policies, from the president to the Congress, should not be able to be issuers of these particular assets and coins. So that's what the amendment does, Mr. Chairman, and I ask for the yeas and nays.
Rebuttal.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Moreno.
this is the Banking Committee, not the Judiciary Committee. The inclusion of a criminal penalty and references the Attorney General make this amendment not germane to this committee. It's out of order. I urge my colleagues to vote no. And I would also just say that as a lawyer, you should, if anybody, respect the fact that people are innocent in this country to proven guilty. You're making conclusive comments about a person who's a good man who serves this nation. And to say with no knowledge that is committing a crime is a disgrace. We can have political conversations about policies. We don't have to turn everything into ad hominem attacks against the President of the United States.
Clerk will call the
Well,
roll.
the chairman, allow me just to respond briefly, because I was clear, Senator, that the deal with World Liberty Financial has all the markings of a corrupt deal. As you know, the president decided to relieve some of the restrictions the United States had placed on chips and AI to the royal family just after those transactions occurred, and he departed for his trip. And of course, there was the transaction even before the inauguration that Sheikh Tahnoon made in World Liberty Financial.
Let me
So
just
there are-
reinforce the point
that-
that Senator Moreno made. Our country still affords the individual the presumption of innocence. And while we can continue the process of making allegations, I do think Senator Moreno's point is spot on. And I rarely do I speak out when you two are having a conversation or any other ones. I do think we should be very careful in this context, but let us move to the vote.
Okay.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman, of course, this amendment doesn't pass judgment on this issue. This just says
So,
the president, no matter who he is, or members of
Your
Congress.
comments did, not the amendment
I
itself.
used the word corrupt.
Call the
The
roll.
difference.
Call the
The
roll.
gentleman knows.
The chairman,
No.
Mr. Crapo?
No.
Mr. Rounds? Mr. Tillis? Mr. Kennedy? Mr. Haggerty?
Haggerty's no.
Ms. Lummis? Mrs. Britt? Mr. Ricketts? Mr. Banks? Mr. Kramer? Mr. Moreno?
No.
Mr. McCormick?
No.
Ms. Warren?
Aye.
Mr. Reed?
Aye by proxy.
Mr. Warner?
Aye.
Mr. Van Hollen? Ms. Cortez Masto? Ms. Smith? Mr. Warnock? Mr. Kim? Mr. Gallego? Ms. Blunt Rochester? Ms. Also Brooks?
Aye.
The vote is 11 in favor and 13 opposed.
The amendment is not agreed to, so we'll now move to Cortez Masto, number 22.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me start off by saying, similar to some of my colleagues, thank you for working together. I think we have come so far on a number of provisions in a bipartisan way, and I appreciate that. I also want to continue working with my colleagues. Senator Lummis, you've been great to work with. Thank you. And I look forward to continuing to work with you to move forward. Let me just say a couple of things. I am concerned that right now the Clarity Act would make it more difficult for law enforcement to capture criminals who use DeFi to move their illicit proceeds. In response to the work that we have been doing together on the sections, including this amendment, I have received letters from law enforcement opposing portions like this of the Clarity Act. There's 2 letters from the National Association of Assistant U.S. Attorneys who do the prosecution of that illicit activity, 2 letters from the National District Attorneys Association, 2 letters from the National Sheriff's Association, a letter from the Fraternal Order of Police, and a letter from the major county sheriffs of America, International Association of Chiefs of Police, Association of State Criminal Investigative Agencies, and the National Association of Police Organizations. I'd actually submit these for the record. Thank you. And the reason why is my goal has been to find common ground, because I think we have agreed that a true non-controlling developer or software provider shouldn't be subject because they're not involved in any of this activity. The concern that many of us have, including in law enforcement, was that the definition was too broad. And the bad guys are going to jump into that definition. And the bad guys we're talking about are the ones that I think Senator Kennedy, I'm sorry he's not here, was asking questions about. Those mixers and those tumblers. They are carved out of these sections. And so the goal would be to make sure that we are letting the good players still be able to innovate, and those non-controlling developers, let them do their thing, but not taking away the tools from law enforcement to be able to prosecute those individuals that pose a really kind of a public safety and national security threat. And I'm talking about folks like foreign states like South Korea and others. Excuse me. I was paying attention to the chairman. I'm trying to move very quickly now, but let me finish this. For North Korea, Iran, and others that are using this terrorist activity that unfortunately are opposed to what we are doing here in the United States, protecting our communities. So I support the crypto regulation. I voted for Genius last year. I'm ready to continue to work on this bill, but we need language to stop and punish those bad actors and give the prosecutors the tools they need to be able to do just that.
Rebuttal.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Moreno.
First of all, to my colleague from Nevada, thank you for your hard work on all this. And I think you're absolutely working in good faith to try to get to a resolution. I agree with the sentiment of what you're saying. But this amendment would strike critical protections for non-controlling blockchain developers contained in Section 301. What makes this amendment particularly troubling is that Section 301 is specifically drafted to distinguish between so-called decentralized finance protocols that are decentralized in name only. We actually came up with a name that Republicans don't always love, being called rhinos. We call this one dinos. And protocols that are genuinely decentralized and not operated by centralized intermediaries behind the scenes. If this legislation already recognizes that distinction and applies appropriate regulatory standards to actors who retain control over a protocol, it makes little sense to simultaneously eliminate protections for developers of truly decentralized systems that lack a controlling intermediary. In practice, this amendment would introduce regulatory uncertainty. I could go on, but here's what I would say. What Senator Lummis said earlier, let's work together to figure out a way to get a landing spot where you're comfortable, we support law enforcement, and we make certain that there's accountability in this. But for this amendment, I urge my colleagues to vote no.
Clerk will call the roll. Nope.
Mr. Crabo?
No.
Mr. Rounds?
No.
Mr. Tillis?
No.
Mr. Kennedy?
No by proxy.
Mr. Haggerty?
Haggerty's no.
Ms. Lummis? Mrs. Britt?
This is
Mr. Ricketts? Mr. Banks? Mr. Kramer?
No.
Mr. Moreno? Mr. McCormick?
No by proxy.
Ms. Warren?
Aye.
Mr. Reed?
Aye.
Mr. Warner?
Aye.
Mr. Van Hollen?
Aye.
Ms. Cortez Masto? Ms. Smith? Mr. Warnock? Mr. Kim? Mr. Gallego? Ms. Blunt Rochester? Ms. Also Brooks?
Aye.
The vote is 11 in favor and 13 opposed.
The amendment is not agreed to. We will now move to call up Smith number 119. Senator Smith, you're now recognized, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to offer my amendment, Smith number 119. So this amendment would incorporate Senator Durbin's No Bailout for Crypto Act, which I joined him in introducing last year. We can all agree, I think, that crypto assets are incredibly volatile, and a single tweet can cause prices to fluctuate wildly. Bitcoin, for example, lost nearly a third of its value since hitting an all-time high just in October. Ethereum's value has more than halved since its peak, and these are just two of the most dominant assets in the crypto market. Nearly $2 trillion worth of crypto asset value was lost in the crypto crash of 2022. And I'm quite concerned, Mr. Chair, in its current form, that this bill that we're considering today all but ensures that the next crash is even bigger than that. So what this amendment does is simply to prohibit federal agencies from bailing out the digital asset industry, preventing U.S. taxpayers from being on the hook if that happens, when that happens. I want to just thank Senator Durbin for his leadership on this issue, and I urge my colleagues to support this amendment.
Senator Lummis for rebuttal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Clarity Act does not authorize a bailout of the digital asset industry. It creates rules for the digital asset markets. It doesn't create a rescue fund, a guarantee, or a taxpayer backstop. The amendment's unnecessary, and it distracts from the purpose of the bill. We should be focused on building a clear regulatory framework, not suggesting that this bill authorizes something it does not.
Mr.
Well-
Chair, this amendment, I would just say, does not suggest, it only is a preventative measure. It protects the taxpayers from future decisions to bail out the crypto industry.
Clerk will call the roll. Nope.
Mr. Crapo?
No.
Mr. Rounds?
No.
Mr. Tillis? Mr. Kennedy?
No.
Mr. Haggerty?
Haggerty's no.
Ms. Lummis?
No.
Mrs. Britt?
No by proxy.
Mr. Ricketts? Mr. Banks? Mr. Kramer? Mr. Moreno? Mr. McCormick?
no.
Ms. Warren?
Aye.
Mr. Reed?
Aye.
Mr. Warner?
Aye.
Mr. Van Hollen? Ms. Cortez Masto? Ms. Smith? Mr. Warnock? Mr. Kim? Mr. Gallego? Ms. Blunt Rochester? Ms. Also Brooks?
Aye.
The vote is 11 in favor and 13 opposed.
The amendment
Mr.
is-
Chairman, I asked to be recorded as present.
Thank you.
Thank
And a
you.
no.
I don't know.
Thank you. The amendment is not agreed to. We will now call up Warnock 121.
Mr. Chairman, I intend to call up Amendment Warnock 121. Thank you. My amendment further strengthens this bill's consumer and investor protections. We made great progress over the past several months of negotiation And I would like to thank Senator Lummis and Chair Scott for working with me on compromise provisions to ensure all consumers and investors are protected from fraud in digital assets. I regret that those compromises are not fully reflected in the text of today's bill, but I'm hopeful that we can continue to work together on this, especially since the Ag Committee's partisan half of this bill is so weak on consumer protection. And frankly, it's a non-starter for Democrats on the floor. But I do want to echo what my colleague, Senator Van Hollen, and others have said. The president's self-dealing with digital assets is pure corruption. And everyone in this room knows that. Whether his dealings are illegal is a matter of legislation, and that's the work we're engaged in. But there's no doubt that this is pure corruption. And the majority has refused to agree to enforceable guardrails around all elected officials, all of us, including the president and the vice president, to prevent them from profiting from crypto while they're supposed to be serving the public. The public deserves to know that we're working for them and not for ourselves. And the president's insistence on being engaged in the way that he's engaged in this whole industry has cast a dark pall on the whole process. And so he should decide whether he wants to get this done or whether he wants to continue to enrich his family. Democrats have made it clear since the beginning of this process that we will not accept a crypto bill that allows the president's crypto corruption to continue. We all agree the digital assets industry needs regulatory clarity, but I cannot support this bill in its current form and will be voting no this morning. I look forward to continuing to work in a bipartisan manner with all of you on a bill that has strong ethical standards with strong consumer and investor protections. And it is in that spirit of good faith compromise that I withdraw my amendment, and I will not seek a vote. Thank you, Mr. Chair or Reverend Dr. Chair. I withdraw my amendment.
Thank you, Senator Dr. Reverend. I will now call up Kim, number 24.
Thank you, Chairman. I believe in innovation in financial services, want to harness the opportunity of emerging technologies. And that's why I did support the Genius Act last year. And I believe that this innovation can be achieved while also working to stop cartels, state sponsors of terrorism, foreign terrorist organizations from exploiting the technology. I worked for years on countering terrorist financing before I came into Congress, and I saw how we can find these types of important balances. And I heard from industry leaders how they don't want their products and tools to be used by terrorist groups. And they don't also said that a one-size-fits-all regulation is not the answer. They also said that frameworks of the past may not be fully applicable to the emerging technologies of tomorrow. To those points, I agree, which is why I'm offering this amendment to modernize the Bank Secrecy Act by adding a new category of financial institutions that would allow us to go after cartels, state sponsors of terrorism, and foreign terrorist organizations that are trying to take advantage of the emerging technologies. At the same time, my amendment preserves innovation and growth for true DeFi, because I know that a one-size-fits-all framework does not work. I support DeFi technology, entrepreneurs, and developers. And I believe that innovation can grow without allowing terrorist resources to grow. So let's meet the moment with a common sense update to the BSA while continuing to encourage innovation in the industries here in the United States. I urge my colleagues to vote yes on this amendment. And with that, I'll yield back.
Thank you. Senator Lemus.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you. This amendment's not needed because the bill in Title II already includes a section that accomplishes just what this amendment contemplates. It directs FinCEN and the CFTC to apply the Bank Secrecy Act to digital commodity brokers, dealers, and exchanges, and it does it in a very precise manner. So I encourage the proponent to check out Title II and also look at Titles 2 and 3 on money laundering and illicit finance. This bill, our bill, I think references the BSA 16 times, and if I counted correctly, and I don't think there's a single reference to BSA in the House passed bill. So we're really tying BSA into our bill. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Clerk will call the roll.
Chairman?
Nope.
Mr. Crapo? No. Mr. Rounds? No. Mr. Tillis? Mr. Kennedy? Mr. Haggerty?
Haggerty's no.
Ms. Lummis?
No?
Mrs. Britt?
No.
Mr. Ricketts? Mr. Banks? Mr. Kramer? Mr. Moreno? Mr. McCormick? Ms. Warren?
Aye.
Mr. Reed?
Aye.
Mr. Warner?
Aye.
Mr. Van Hollen? Ms. Cortez Masto? Ms. Smith? Mr. Warnock? Mr. Kim? Mr. Gallego? Ms. Blunt Rochester? Ms. Also Brooks?
Aye.
The vote is 11 in favor and 13 opposed.
The amendment is not agreed to. We will now call up Gallego number 18.
Thank
Senator-
you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, ranking member, and thank you obviously for the whole markup. This has been, to say the least, a very long and difficult process. And it's been great, though, working with Senator Lummis, Senator Tillis. Okay, time working with Moreno. To be honest. But we really have spent the better time of last year in countless meetings, long nights, and working through holidays. And really, at its best, the Senate learns together, finds common ground, and legislates. This is what this process demanded of us, and it's not an easy bill, as we all know, and it's exactly what we try to do. And after working on Genius Act, and we all remember that ordeal, we all learned that solving issues on the front end makes for better legislation. And we took that seriously here, and for very, very good reason. What Congress is attempting to do here is creating regulations for an entirely new sector of our financial system, and it is a massive undertaking. 67 million Americans own digital assets. We owe it to these people, many of whom are young and simply trying to achieve financial independence, to get this right. With 1 in 4 Americans now invested in digital assets, we cannot afford to wait. We also cannot afford to get this wrong. And that's the balance we are trying to strike. Through serious bipartisan negotiations, we have made incredible progress on this bill. We have narrowed the gap on many of the outstanding issues. We did serious bipartisan work on generally difficult questions about regulatory jurisdiction, consumer disclosure requirements, crypto ATMs, and to name a few. I want to be clear that my vote here does not guarantee a vote on the floor. After today, we need to connect with our Agricultural Committee colleagues and collapse negotiations into one, and all sit at the table. And perhaps the toughest issue of all, we have come close, but have not finished, an agreement on ethics guardrail for elected officials, all elected officials. We need real enforceable standards for what it is and is not acceptable for someone who holds the public trust and shouldn't be able to profit off an industry that they enforce or regulate. But we will continue to work. I am looking forward to continue working. Mr. Tillis and Ranking Member Chairman Lummis and I have talked about this, how we're going to continue working. And I hope to see that we don't have any more backsliding and can move forward and hopefully finish this. So I withdraw my Gallego amendment number 18, and we'll in committee vote yes. But if this is not resolved by the time of the floor, like I have in the past, I am not afraid to vote no. Look forward to working together and hopefully come to a solution. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We will now move. Senator Also Brooks has decided to offer Senator Warren's the space that she had for number 7. We will now hear from Senator Warren on amendment number 79. Senator Warren, you are now recognized.
Thank you. So the Trump administration has spent the past year trying every trick in the book to kill the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the agency that has returned more than $21 billion directly to consumers who've been cheated by banks and giant corporations. Acting Director Vogt has dropped virtually all of the consumer agency's ongoing enforcement actions against crooks and other bad actors. He's tried to lay off almost all of its staff, and he's tried to drain its funding. People have fought back, and a federal court has prevented Trump and Vogt from fully shutting down the agency. But at the same time that Congress is debating this bill, which would dramatically expand the risk of fraud in consumer and crypto markets, the administration is busy trying to fire the cops responsible for protecting consumers. Now, remember, the CFPB is the agency responsible for fighting to cap abusive overdraft fees and late fees, to strike down medical debt from consumers' credit reports, to protect service members from being charged illegal interest rates on loans, to stop families from being put out on the street with an illegal foreclosure. The CFPB is going to be more important than ever if we pass a bill unleashing new crypto scams. My amendment would ensure that the CFPB receives a consistent funding stream that is insulated from the kinds of political games the Trump administration has been playing to undermine consumer financial protection in this country. I urge my colleagues to support Warren 79.
Senator Moreno for rebuttal.
This amendment should not be adopted for one simple reason. The CFPB's budget is clearly out of the scope of this bill. It's absolutely not germane. We voted on quite a few attempted congressional review acts yesterday, and those were all voted down. And I urge my colleagues to do the same with this amendment.
May I have my last 15 seconds that I didn't use?
Sure.
And my 15 seconds are the CFPB was created right here in this committee because of fraud. If we are creating a new opportunity for expanded fraud, we need to make sure that the CFPB is fully funded.
The clerk will call the roll.
And I still have 3 seconds.
My goodness.
Chairman? No. Mr. Crapo? Mr. Rounds? No. Mr. Tillis? No. Mr. Kennedy? Mr. Haggerty?
Haggerty's no.
Ms. Lummis? No. Mrs. Britt? No. Mr. Ricketts? No. Mr. Banks? No. Mr. Kramer? No. Mr. Moreno? No. Mr. McCormick?
No.
Ms. Warren?
Aye. Sorry. I was
Mr. Reed?
dazzled by the chairman's comments.
Yeah.
But yay by proxy. I'm still dazzled.
Mr. Warner?
Aye.
Mr. Van Hollen? Aye. Ms. Cortez Masto?
Oh, aye by proxy.
Ms. Smith? Mr. Warnock?
Aye by proxy.
Mr. Kim? Mr. Gallego? Ms. Blunt Rochester? Ms. Alsobrooks?
Aye.
The vote is 11 in favor and 13 opposed.
I'm going to check.
That's okay. Yeah. About an hour ago, I received a request from a couple of Democrat members to add 5 amendments to make this a bipartisan outcome, and I've decided to do so.
So, Mr. Chairman, I object here. You cut 16 amendments from the members of this committee. We agreed, you said, nope, we got to our numbers and said, these are our numbers. And now all of a sudden you have decided to rule back in 3 amendments, I take it from Senator Lummis, that you originally ruled out because it will be more convenient because somebody gets a vote. You just said, as we started this, the rules are the rules, and that you're not going to pick and choose and say, oh, this is going to help that one along, or it's going to help that one along, that you were going to apply the rules across the board. I came in here with one set of rules and understood that that was the case. So if you're now going to rule arbitrarily that you've picked 3 out of the basket to add back in, 3 Republican amendments to add back in, then I think you should rule that all of the amendments are back in. We'd like all of the Democratic amendments back in. And I am particularly looking at Cortez Masto, number 16. This is an amendment that was requested by the National Sheriff's Association. It would close a massive loophole in the current bill that would make it, right now, the current bill makes it harder for law enforcement to go after cartels and criminals that are using decentralized platforms to launder money? Or how about we do Reed Smith, number 95, for example? That's the amendment that would prevent deposit flight from community banks, which Republicans are clearly afraid to vote on. So it seems to me, Mr. Chairman, following the rules you announced at the beginning, either we know all the amendments when we walk in and that's the end of it, or if you're going to start opening that up, let's open it up to everyone, not just 3 amendments on the Republican side.
Actually, the amendment that we just voted on, number 79, was not agreed to as well. We substituted it based on the request of Alston Brooks to allow you to have that amendment, and I did so. And as you said at the beginning of this hearing, that I have the right as the chairman to pick and choose which amendments we wanted. And based on a bipartisan, which I'm not choosing between Republicans and Democrats, I'm actually choosing for Republicans and Democrats to have these final amendments in order.
You know, with respect, Mr. Chairman, you didn't say to me that if Alston Brooks wanted to yield her spot over for me to add another amendment, the consequence would be that Lummis would suddenly get 3 amendments that had been ruled that
Mr.
they
Chair.
would not be held and they would be out of order. I just don't understand this process.
This is a Wikipedia definition of no good deed goes unpunished. These were bipartisan bills. So, Mr. Chair, maybe instead of considering them here today with the ranking member's objections, can we just get an agreement that they'd be baked into a manager's amendment on the floor?
Yes.
No,
Good, okay.
I think,
Point of, yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman,
Last
Yeah.
comment on the left, we'll
Yeah.
go to closing remarks, yes.
I would actually prefer, because of the good faith that Senator Lummis has shown, and, you know, and I intend to work more on this bill, but I would hope this would move me much closer if these amendments are not put off till the floor. but are-
Then I clearly withdraw my comment.
Yeah, point of order, Mr. Chair, just so I have clarification.
Certainly.
Because if you had included my number 16, I wouldn't be asking this question. But now I'm trying to understand. Originally, 16 was not allowed because it was ineligible based on a Scrivener's error. So were these others. But now, at the chairman's call and discretion, those are going to be allowed in, but this one not because it's still a Scrivener's error. I'm confused.
Yeah,
why-
no,
what-
let me
or is it just, and listen, I respect it. It's your call.
Yes.
If it's just that you want to let some in and some not, that's fine too. I respect that. I'm just trying to understand as we move forward.
Certainly, there's no doubt that this could be confusing to folks looking on. It's a simple, actual answer. We have an opportunity to do what I think is in America's best interest, is to show that when possible, both sides can find a path forward. And in my opinion, finding that path forward requires me to allow Lummis's amendments in because that was a request of Democrat members in order to get to a bipartisan coalition and solution. And so yeah, I have made the decision that treating both sides fairly requires me to listen to both sides. And now that there are both sides coming to the table, both asking me to make a decision to allow amendments in, it's incumbent upon me to make the right decision. In my opinion, making the right decision is to allow these amendments in. So we can either do it the way that Tillis has recommended, or we can do it the way that Warner recommended, but at the end of the day.
But let me suggest, obviously, the Democrats have not agreed to this. There may be a Democrat, there may be 3 Democrats who've agreed to
Yes.
this. But the Democrats have not agreed to this. Let me ask the question the other way around, because I know
Certainly.
you always want to be fair.
Yes.
You guys have the majority. You voted out every single thing that the Democrats have tried to put in. What is the harm to letting us vote 2 more amendments that we wanted to vote? One that is supported by law enforcement and one that is supported by community banks. We're not here to try to make this a longer process. You still have all the votes. You can keep them out, but we'd at least like to have an opportunity to vote on these 2 amendments. And then still an unusual process, but I would call it, you are trying to be fair here. Otherwise, you've just said, I'm going to pick the people who I think are going to put together the deal that is the deal you like. It's not the deal I like. And so either we get the same kind of parity, we get the same kind of courtesy afforded each other. We're just asking for 2 amendments. You're getting 3 here. And
Excellent.
let us vote on those 2. I don't know what the harm is of voting. You guys, we get it. You'll probably vote no, but you ought to at least have to hear it.
Actually, I think it's 4 or 5 amendments. but
I'm only asking 2.
I understand. I think the answer is a simple one. Again, about 11:05, we informed your team that there was a bipartisan coalition asking for more amendments that I had taken out. I decided to listen to the bipartisan conversation and come to the conclusion that it was worth moving on. And that is what I'm going to do. And with Senator Warner and other members of your side reinforcing my point, I think the best thing to do is to accept those amendments, hear them, and hear the rebuttals.
I just want to say I'm deeply concerned that law enforcement officials will listen to this and wonder why their point of view couldn't be heard. That community banks will listen to this and wonder why their point of view just couldn't be heard. That's all anyone's asking for. It's 2 minutes in order to get the amendment out, a minute by way of rebuttal, and we're done. But we came in here, lived with the fact that you said, sorry, can't do those, but part of your statement was, and sorry, there are Republican things we can't do as well. So the Democratic position, look, our position should be, it's all of them, but we're willing, I'm just going to say on behalf of my colleagues here, we're willing to settle just for these 2.
And now I'll call up Lummis number 122.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I would request a voice vote as opposed to a roll call vote on this. Okay. Mr. Chairman, I call up my amendment 122 and ask that page 4, lines 1 and 2 be stricken, and I urge its adoption. These are changes to clarify the circumstances in which a DeFi protocol is decentralized in name only and is actually controlled by a small group of persons. And I want to thank Senator Warner for working with me on this.
Rebuttal?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Look, this amendment makes some technical fixes to Section 301 of the bill. It's hard to fix something that's fundamentally broken. Section 301 sets a narrow test for what counts as a crypto intermediary that few will ever meet. It also incorporates Section 604, the same loophole that shields decentralized services from basic anti-money laundering rules, as law enforcement experts have stressed. It doesn't matter if you have rules if nobody has to follow them. The amendment doesn't fix any of those issues, and I urge all my colleagues to oppose this amendment.
I move to strike pages 4, lines 1 and 2. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I call for a roll call vote.
Had a feeling. Clerk will call the roll. Aye.
Mr. Crapo?
Aye.
Mr. Rounds?
Aye.
Mr. Tillis? Mr. Kennedy? Mr. Haggerty?
Haggerty's aye.
Ms. Lummis?
Aye.
Mrs. Britt? Mr. Ricketts? Mr. Banks? Mr. Kramer? Mr. Moreno? Mr. McCormick? Ms. Warren?
No.
Mr. Reed?
No.
Mr. Warner?
Aye.
Mr. Van Hollen?
No.
Ms. Cortez Masto?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
No.
Mr. Warnock?
Yes, by proxy.
Mr. Kim? Mr. Gallego? Ms. Blunt Rochester? Ms. Alsobrooks?
Aye.
The vote is 18 in favor and 6 opposed.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask just one parliamentary inquiry? Because I am confused on the process. I understand there were some amendments that were disqualified because of Scrivener's error. And Senator Lummis had some of those, and some of our colleagues had some of those. And I understand the desire to put those back into the mix and have votes. I had amendments that were drawn properly, that were not disqualified at all, including one on anti-touting, Van Hollen 34, and Van Hollen 29 on fair disclosure of information. Those were written exactly right. And so now we're having votes on amendments that you originally declared had not been correctly drafted, and not allowing me and maybe some others to actually vote on amendments that were in order and properly drafted. How does that make sense?
During the Genius Act, we made, we came to a compromise on the number of amendments that we were going to have. It was around 40. I can't remember exactly the number that we had. But ultimately, when the ranking members side asked for how many amendments we were going to have, I chose the number that we were going to have. I gave our side 5. I gave you all 15. Ranking member chose to work with us to figure out the 15 that you all would have. And ultimately, that's how we got here.
I will just say in conclusion, Mr. Chairman, I believe it's unprecedented to kind of cap the number of in-order amendments.
Actually not.
At this kind of level.
Every, it's not unprecedented, number one. Number two, every time we do a vote arrangement, we compromise on the number of amendments that we have. When we did Genius Act, we compromised on number of amendments we have, and we're doing it again. The clerk will now call the roll on the 18 to 6 it was. What was it?
The last one, 18 to 6.
The lines have been stricken. We will now move to the amendment itself, Lummis number 122.
The chairman?
As modified? As modified?
Yes.
Please call the roll.
The chairman?
Aye.
Mr. Crapo?
Aye.
Mr. Rounds?
Aye.
Mr. Tillis?
Aye.
Mr. Kennedy? Mr. Haggerty?
Haggerty's aye.
Ms. Lummis? Mrs. Britt? Mr. Ricketts? Mr. Banks? Mr. Kramer? Mr. Moreno? Mr. McCormick? Ms. Warren?
No.
Mr. Reed?
No.
Mr. Warner?
Aye.
Mr. Van Hollen?
No.
Ms. Cortez Masto?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
No.
Mr. Warnock?
I by proxy.
Mr. Kim? Mr. Gallego? Ms. Blunt Rochester? Ms. Also Brooks?
Aye.
The vote is 18 in favor and 6 opposed. The amendment as modified is agreed to. We now call up Lummis number 123. Senator Lummis, you are now recognized. Microphone. Thank you, ma'am.
Asking for a voice vote on 123. Mr. Chairman, Amendment 123 makes bipartisan changes with respect to activities that are permissible for banks and credit unions to engage in digital asset activities. These changes include clarifying the trading activities that banks can do and extending applicability to insured credit unions. I urge adoption and yield back.
Senator Warren is recognized for rebuttal.
This amendment makes some modest improvements to Section 401, the part of the bill that drastically expands the crypto-related activities that taxpayer-insured banks are permitted to engage in. Wow. But this one falls far short. Under this amendment, banks would be able to transact in decentralized finance, lend against crypto as collateral, own crypto directly, trade crypto derivatives, and more. What could possibly go wrong? Why are Republicans trying to divert Americans' deposits away from small business lending and mortgage lending? This just makes no sense. If the bill passes, even with this amendment, the next crypto crash could bring down the banks as well and bring down the entire economy. Let's strike this section instead of trying to tweak it along the edges and pretend that that fixes this problem. I urge my colleagues to vote no on Lummis 123.
Clerk, call the roll. Yes.
Mr. Crapo?
Yes.
Mr. Rounds?
Aye.
Mr. Tillis? Mr. Kennedy? Mr. Haggerty?
Haggerty's aye.
Ms. Lummis?
Aye.
Mrs. Britt?
Aye.
Mr. Ricketts? Mr. Banks? Mr. Kramer? Mr. Moreno? Mr. McCormick? Ms. Warren?
No.
Mr. Reed?
No?
Mr. Warner?
Aye.
Mr. Van Hollen?
No.
Ms. Cortez Masto? Ms. Smith?
No.
Mr. Warnock?
I by proxy.
Mr. Kim? Mr. Gallego? Ms. Blunt Rochester? Ms. Alsobrooks?
Aye.
The vote is 19 in favor and 5 opposed.
I now call up, the amendment is agreed to. I now call up Lummis 124.
Mr. Chairman, Amendment 124 changes an or, strikes an or and adds an and to Section 505 to ensure that the SEC properly carries out a rulemaking for the protection of investors and the benefit of our financial markets. I thank my Democrat colleagues for bringing this amendment to my attention, and I urge everyone to support it.
Senator Warren for a rebuttal.
Look, the problem of tokenization is one of the biggest problems with this bill. And the fix that this amendment proposes in Section 505 gives the idea of a fig leaf a bad name. It is so inadequate. This amendment, through a minor improvement on that section, does not do nearly enough to protect our system from the harm of this bill. As I have said before, the bill creates a system of easy regulation for crypto and easy ways out of securities regulation to this new easy street for crypto. And then to stop the inevitable flow of capital from our traditional markets into crypto that this incentive system will cause, Section 505 ostensibly imposes a requirement of regulatory parity between securities and tokenized securities. It would be one thing if the bill left it at that, but it goes on to weaken that already anemic fix by providing that the SEC actually can treat securities like assets differently in light of the unique technological characteristics of crypto or consistent with the public interest and protecting investors. While the amendment would instead require the SEC to base its exceptions on the unique characteristics of crypto and whether or not it is in the interest of the public and investors, it does nothing to change the fact that this exception to the requirement of regulatory parity threatens to swallow the entire rule. I urge my colleagues to oppose it.
Clerk will call the roll.
Couldn't interrupt our friend Elizabeth Warren there, but everybody, welcome back to the Daily Stack. We've been running the Senate Banking Committee for a minute, and we are live, and we are excited to talk about a lot of things today, but there is a lot of noise out there from Ms. Warren on crashing the entire economy based on a little regulation that's just going to provide some clarity.
Yeah, this is just a complete joke. I just can't take anything she says seriously.
Yeah. And today we have special guest Chris Reed with us. Chris, how are you this morning?
Doing great. Appreciate you having me.
Of course. So we have a few things we want to get into today. We'll get into the Clarity Act in the Senate Banking Committee. You guys have probably been watching that for all morning. Nothing new we're going to drop in there. But what is new is Strive's announcement. So daily dividends. Halston did a post earlier that we retweeted, but Halston, I'll let you explain what Strive announced, how it ties to MSTR and what Saylor was talking about at the conference.
Yeah, let's just preface this by saying we had Jeff Walton on the show live at Vegas 2 weeks ago now, and we actually discussed this, and he teased daily dividends, but I thought he was just joking. Little did we know he was actually being very, very serious. So Strive just announced today daily dividends starting June 16th, which means every trading session is now an ex-dividend date. And this also means that the daily payments are faster reinvestment. I'll just read my post. more frequent compounding, and and at 13% right now, it's like 13.88, something like that. The jump from that from monthly to daily will add 7.6 bips of effective yield completely for free for the current SATA holders. And also, this is just crazy because they will be the first listed security in U.S. history to pay daily dividends. So yeah, this is a huge announcement. Totally not at all what I was expecting them to come out and say. I thought they were going to come out and say they're the like now third largest holder of Bitcoin, something along those lines. But no, yeah. So
they're asset
crazy
manager.
stuff.
I thought they were gonna be buying someone like similar, right? I thought it was gonna be a very
Yeah. Like
similar
acquisition.
type transaction.
Yeah, and on that note too, they got rid of their, I think it was $10 million of debt. Came out in that announcement as well.
Chris, what about you? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, they did the whole countdown thing the last 3 days, so I guess we shouldn't be surprised that something came out, right? Because it's like, oh, it came out of left field, but if you're gonna do an announcement of an announcement, it better be this big kind of deal. Obviously. So yeah, man, it's funny. It's like they leapfrogged the semi-monthly, right? Like the progression you thought it would have been on a semi-monthly, and
Why
then
not?
they just leapfrogged it and went to the daily. And I looked at it a little bit, but I mean, in the end, the big picture is the vol should come down on the instrument, and ultimately with the two products, they just want the vol to come down. They want it like an ocean, a very calm ocean. They don't want waves. They don't want volatility. They want the thing to be constant, because that's going to bring in a different type of buyer to these instruments. And what it does is it creates confidence in the instrument. And you have to think about what type of buyer comes in. I will say I was on a Spaces earlier, and it is a semi-sad day. I'll be honest, using the semi word, but it's a semi-sad day because the likelihood of these instruments going sub 90 again to be able to trade it and buy it 89. That 80 handles. That's it's very sad for me. Because had some sub 90 on both, and I think those days are, you can't say 100% gone, but very, very unlikely that these will be ranging down below 90 or 89 again. Those are like, it feels like that was 5 years ago. So
Yeah. Different products for different times. I think the really positive thing is what this does bring to us is some good action on the side of MSTR. So if you look today, that was a little bit hidden there, but back up to 190, really solid movement up there. We're seeing, this is building confidence, right? It's so much about the sentiment. It's so much about, do people think that they can continue to actually fund these dividends long term? And there's been, moves last year, like building the cash balance. That was new. There was, we'll get into the MSTR earnings, but selling Bitcoin and being willing to sell Bitcoin if it was accretive, if it made sense for shareholders, if Saylor said it is better for Bitcoiners that they sell high cost basis Bitcoin. So it's building, a lot of these moves are all building confidence. Before we get into MSTR side, I think on the Strive and the daily dividends, it's smoothing out the curve just so that product is super vanilla and boring and people trust it just like they trust the stable coin. Clarity Act's great, but for stable coins, there shouldn't be any speculative nature to it, or you shouldn't really care. They should be really fungible and USDT, USDC, but really I think like having Stretch and SATA, you want them to be like, yes, difference in yields because SATA is a smaller company. There's more risk there, but for the most part, very clean, very smooth.
Yeah, we're already seeing ASST see some movement today as well. But I'm just curious, like, what does this mean for strategy? They're still barely pushing the semi-monthly. I just can't help but think they're not going to try to compete with them.
We'll see. It's very interesting. Even within STRC and SATA, you have a different tranche of buyers. This is my opinion. We don't have, it's not like a ton of data on this, but this is just my feel of someone that's owned both of them. And I've been kind of two parts of it. There's like the trader side of it that was like you buy like sub 95, sub 90, and you're collecting the dividend along the way, and then you're selling it for the arbitrage because you're buying discount to par. There's some people that did that. And so some people are like, well, that's over
Yeah.
because the magnet to par is that's kind of over. But then you also have, hedge funds that Saylor talked about with, great interview. He did 3 this week. They were phenomenal this past week. But hedge funds that will come in and what they will do is, they can tap their prime broker and basically 2 to 5x lever position in this thing. You buy it at par. You buy it at par, and then the dividend's paid, and then you sell it on the way back up on the back end, and you get like 50 basis points. But and I'm telling you, this is what they do, because if you read Liar's Poker, great book about mortgage-backed securities, Wall Street will wrap and sell anything.
Yeah.
They will arbitrage anything. That's the big takeaway on these books. If you study Wall Street over the years, A Reminiscence of a Stock Operator, some of the best books of all time that you go through, those top 5, they will sell, buy, and they will create derivatives and tranche everything. Right. And so our traders are doing this. This was so obvious, but he really hadn't talked a lot about it, like the intricacies potentially of it, until this interview. And what you do, you do 2 to 5x lever, and then you sell it after, and as it comes back up and recovers, you get out. And so maybe you're holding for 2 days. And so look at this. I think STRC is going to be over 10,000 Bitcoin today. And what that means is, as it gets closer to the ex-div date, so tomorrow's ex-div, you're an ARB fund, you wait till the day before and you slam a position the day right before ex-div, and then you sell like next week at some point, whatever it's 1 day or 2 days, whatever. Now you may not wait for it to get back to par, but you get 25 or 50 bips at 5x levered. That's 2.5. That's 2.5%. So annually, I'm just saying hypothetically, this is how they do these things. And I promise you, sharp money has figured it out. And I don't see how this like reverses the other way, because it's almost like a rabbit hole. You're down the rabbit hole, and it's like if you 2 to 5x lever and make 2 to 2.5% on your fund on those positions, why would you go the other direction, right? And so now it becomes it's all about scale. It's something I've tried to tweet about a lot. Now it's about scale. It's 10 billion is nothing in Wall Street, guys. Like, it's absolutely nothing, and no one cares. Like, seriously, from scale-wise. But if it gets to 50 and 100 and 500 billion, people don't understand like the whole apex carry concept with this thing. I know it's super early, and I sound like a crazy person talking about that stuff. It's nowhere near that. But I'm telling you, you get to the point where they need to get in and get out, and that's what Taylor. No, go ahead. Yeah.
And that's the difference. I think that's the difference in like where I really appreciate Strive. We had Matt Cole on several times, but one time was in Miami last November, Cantor Fitzgerald conference, and they very much recognize, they're like, we want to be the second biggest Bitcoin treasury company in the world. And they're not saying, they're not like Jack Mallers in 21 and saying we want to be the biggest one in the world. Like, it is, you do want to be first, but I think it's just a very healthy recognition of just the scale that Saylor is already there, and every buy that Strive does is going to just make it harder for them to catch up to Saylor. So one thing he did mention is like, I think at our size as a small cap, we can outperform at this point going forward strategy. So people looking for that higher risk. And it also, I really like what they're doing with the products, because it's like they're looking at the market, they're being responsive, they're trying to be innovative and say, look, we're smaller, we need to provide something different. We need to do, extra percent on SATA's yield versus like stretch. We need to go to daily dividends versus just getting it to monthly, or semi-monthly dividends. So they are being very responsive and trying to move fast in an era where many of these treasury companies have been selling Bitcoin. I think they're actually moving in the right direction. And then one thing we always talk about is Vivek Ramaswamy, if he's, elected governor of Ohio, I think you never want to bet against political tailwinds in this environment. So they have a lot of stuff going for them, and they've been really responsive. That is interesting to think about. At what level does Strive and SATA need to get? What size do they need to get to have liquidity to get the same type of, enterprise, institutional type investment and interest, that where people can get in and out, just like you mentioned, Chris.
Yeah. I know. I just saw.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, I just saw. I think it was Fong that tweeted a couple days ago that Stretch is 25 times more liquid than the second largest preferred. Just crazy to me. But yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, and by far and away the most successful preferred stock, like you could say, ever. from many
Yeah.
different metrics. And so, yeah, it just the nature of these instruments, there's going to be different buyers throughout. I mean, like Saylor talks about, you have the individual tranches. The first people that understood STRC, guess who it was? It was Bitcoiners that understood MSTR.
Yeah.
That's who got it.
Yeah.
And guess who bought the IPO? Those people.
Yeah.
And guess what the IPO was? $90. And some of us I got filled below 90 when it was MCSTP before the QSIP uplist. $89 and something, like 64 cents. And then you buy it, you held it, you've gotten 13-14% on the instrument, and you've gotten paid every month to hold it. So it's like
Oh,
a 20
man.
if you bought the IPO and you've held it and you've collected the dividends, reinvested, it's like 20% return
Wow.
since the IPO from
Yeah.
a credit instrument. And so one quick thing is, in another life, I was in wealth management for a short period, and you had to study preferred stocks. And preferred stocks were the most boring thing I've ever.
Mhm.
It was ridiculously boring.
Yeah.
It was horrible, and like no one cared about preferred stocks. I mean, the only reason, like, if you're a CFA or whatever, that you go through all that to learn, because you had to learn it for the test. It wasn't like you're talking about. It wasn't like you're learning about preferred stocks all the time, and like preferred stocks like in the corner, nobody cares. So it's been
Yeah.
kind of cool to see this, like, coming from that world of like how it's just elevated a preferred stock to this level, and I think it's very early. So from the Wall
Yeah.
Street side.
I spoke to wealth manager at Morgan Stanley yesterday, and to your point of packaging up everything, I didn't realize, he pointed out the fact, I'll have to give him credit, I'll call him or text him today, more ETFs are traded than actual individual stocks. So there's more ETFs, and from his analysis, more ETFs traded than actual individual stocks, which doesn't make sense to me at all. Like, how could you have more packages of the underlying versus just actual companies that you're injecting capital into? And it shows that, like, even, we're trying to do cool things, digital credit. People have been pushing on, like, Clarity Act, obviously, like blockchain, and Elizabeth Warren just said it could crash the economy. Well, we've been doing this for 20 years. We've been doing this since the 80s with bonds and like junk bonds. And there's just, it's nothing new. And that's why I think people have a really good valid argument of like, who are you really defending here? She,
Sorry.
yeah,
She said it'll crash the banks. Too late.
yeah,
Does she know anything about Wall Street? The last 130 years, they've been having bank failure since 1907.
yeah.
Like
They've been bailing them out.
every decade there's been a bank crisis, right? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, what does she do? Like, it's been 130 years, Elizabeth. Like, come on now. Like, this isn't anything new. Like, if they did fail, right? I mean,
Right.
there's a Fed put, and all the Fed does is ultimately they just print more units. That's all that happened in the GFC and the Asian financial crisis and LTCM blow up. They just keep printing more units to backstop it. So, that's kind of where you're at with that.
Yeah. And Holston, we'll dive into, we'll let you cover this because you know it better than I do. But
Yeah.
pulling up Bitcoin Quant, which Holston's now GM, right? And
A little bit. Yeah. We got a new dash coming hopefully in the next 2 to 3 weeks, and I think you guys will enjoy. But yeah, let's take a look. I mean, we got Stretch pretty much just a little bit over par. SATA was at par. I saw just literally a couple minutes ago. Let me actually just pull this up as well.
in the volume, right? So 760 million for Stretch. There's just so much size there that I think we're looking at, I think is very encouraging that versus Stride, that SATA getting 28 million, that is adoption. Like I do think that like being ahead of some of the preferreds is indicative of adoption, because most people are going to look at the other preferreds as still very, very trustworthy. They have the size, they have, Saylor has the track record, 20 years as a public company. But I think it's very encouraging for someone of Stride's size to be able to have SATA, get some of that same tailwinds. But it's still 760 million versus 28 million in volume.
For sure.
Yeah, and to add some color, yeah. So if you're an ARB desk and STRC gets bigger and bigger each month, your fund can participate in a deeper way every single month as it scales more and as there's more liquidity, right? And so these multi-billion-dollar funds, they can run these massive 2 to 5x levered positions and then collect the 50 bips in 2 trading days after XDiv, happens. And so that type of scale, those types of buyers are going to start coming, the next 6 to 12 months at massive scale. But to your point, like SETA is just a different instrument, right? It doesn't have that type of liquidity. So it's going to be a different profile of someone that's either trading it or doing everything like Sailors talked about. And just in general, like these are instruments, and there's like so many different types of traders, investors, dividend collectors, different layers of people that buy it for different reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Chris, you were saying you think today they'll be at 10,000 Bitcoin with Stretch?
It's just my gut. It's just my gut.
What's your gut?
It was like noon. It was like noon EST, and it was like at 4,700, I think, or something like that. I'm like, I just, plus after hours. I think
Yeah.
it's the first 10K day. I don't know. That's just my feel.
It's almost 1 p.m. EST, and we're at 5686.
Yeah,
and
if
just
you
this
blend
week,
Mhm.
go ahead.
Oh, so I mean interrupt you. Like, if you blend it with other estimates too, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just this week, almost 12 grand.
Yeah, and this week's been this little cycle's been interesting, and what I think, especially after listening to the Sailor conversation, I think 6 times now at this point with CoinDesk, is the last time was some massive like I say
Yeah.
massive, not for their world, but like it was a really deep volume of arbitrageurs coming in, and so you had this overhang of them getting out between the previous XDiv date and then them selling their position to take off that 25 bips and they're out, or 50 bips and they're out. You see what I'm saying? And so you have these massive sellers, and he called them degens. He was so funny. He was cracking me up. He was calling them like, you got degens. The biggest degens in the world isn't crypto. It's Wall Street. Are you kidding me? That's the biggest degens in the world, right? So he's talking about like, they're worried about like, some of the crypto. We can talk about it later, but like that complex of the like the layer 3 of what's going on with that. He's like, look, there's bigger degens in Wall Street. They come in and buy $1 billion and dump it the next week, right? And so but it still stayed at the 99 handle after all that. And so it's just playing the game theories now. It's taken off that like it's handling these arbitrageurs coming in with massive positions, and then they're getting out maybe 2 to 3 days after the XDiv. And look at the instrument. It didn't drop to like 97 or 98. It went like 99.15 or 99.20. So it's held up really well with very different types of buyers that are coming in and they don't wait for it to come back to par. That's the thing. So they're selling as it ticks up from 99.20 to 99.40 and 99.60. And so that's why there was that lag. If you guys noticed this last time, this is just my total opinion about kind of what happened. And so there was that overhang of them getting out of their just arbitrage positions. But
Yeah. Chris, I'm not sure. I know you've been talking a lot about Stretch and SETA. From your perspective, as just a general investor, obviously you believe in digital credit and Bitcoin and MSTR and Strive itself. What's your current outlook? That's, just your opinion, not financial advice on like where to position. I think for the average listener, it's, we're talking about institutional, we're talking about, bigger corporate, allocations here, but I think there's a ton on, we want to speak to our audience and especially like the younger generation of like, where are you going to park capital? Now's the time to be a little more high risk, but you need to risk manage really well. Always start with like stacking Bitcoin itself, have like freedom money, have self custody. But then when you want to have like an allocation, and I think in your portfolio you should, to something like MSTR, like amplified Bitcoin, or Strive, who's trying to grow the portfolio faster than like just holding spot Bitcoin itself. What's your outlook? Like we've talked about Strike, we've talked about other options, within this, and Stretch is amazing, but I wouldn't say right now in May 2026 is when I'm holding Stretch necessarily.
oh yeah, see, so if you're a growth minded, here's my thing, and this is, people may not like this, but if you're a growth minded person and you have a decade plus outlook, or maybe even just 5 years, but especially 10 years plus, I'm just going to be honest with you. Why do you need Stretch?
You don't.
You're just capping your upside. You don't need it at all. And so people are like, oh, why are you talking about Stretch so much? Stretch is for Wall Street, guys. That's my biggest thing. It's a Wall Street instrument. They're going to wrap and do what they want with it. I cannot wait to see what's going on with Stretch and banks white labeling. That's a whole other conversation. But for someone in a growth mindset, like you said, why would you need Stretch? I mean, maybe for an income situation, that's very situational for someone in particular. But if you have a 10-year outlook and you're trying to grow your wealth, and well, actually, we say grow it, but also protect it from monetary debasement. You need Bitcoin, you need spot. You need, if you have some in IRAs, then obviously there's wrappers with ETFs, especially with like MSBT now with Morgan Stanley's ETN that's out, with it just being a 14 basis points versus GBTC now their ticker's BTC. It obviously switched, and that's 25 basis points, and IBIT's 25 basis points. So you're saving 11 basis points with MSBT and things like that. So like those are decisions you have to make, like nuanced decisions, or like what wrapper do you have in your IRAs. But in the end, I mean, and let me just give you an example. I have 2 young kids. Guess what they own? And what they've owned for a long time. They own Bitcoin ETF / MSTR. They don't own Stretch. I don't have Stretch. I don't have Stretch in their brokerage accounts. Why would my kids own that when they have a multi-decade horizon? I'm just capping their returns. And so like 10 years from now, Dad, why'd you have us in Stretch when you should have had more Bitcoin? That's
Yeah.
Especially my youngest. He did a presentation 2 weeks ago at his school on Bitcoin. So I would say he's pretty sharp on that stuff. So he's basically all, I mean, they're all in, man. Like, so they totally get it. And so they don't need Stretch. And so they're the same thing. They have a growth mindset at 8 and 11 years old. And so do many 20 and 30-year-olds. Like, you have a growth mindset. Don't cap yourself. Now, if you're managing a portfolio, this is a completely 180. If you're actively managing and you've been able to outperform the S&P 500 with your concepts over a 5-year plus period, now that's a totally different conversation. And my voice will change and all that. Like, see, I'm probably a different hat. That's a different situation. But I'm going to be honest, 98%, okay, buy Bitcoin or the ETF and IRAs, and you leave it alone at 30% a year. I'm going to tell you something. Not many people can outperform 30% a year.
Tough. And that's a thing where you have to clarify, because not on the growth side, but people see SATA and they see Stretch and they get excited, and but you have to really, people coming into the space need to be educated, not because they're dumb, because it's not like intuitive to think of, oh, Stretch and SATA are just pipes, funneling more institutional capital in to the entire ecosystem. Bitcoin as an asset is always liquidity driven. So we're hoping for, maybe not hope, but we think there is going to be a big liquidity event of just printing money post Iran war, whatever's happening in the China summit. But it shouldn't be necessarily what you allocate to. Like for someone like Halston's age, it's you need to risk manage and look at things appropriately and spread out your risk. But even though the Stretch is exciting, don't go out and just go buy it. That's not your main goal here. Unless it makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, no worries. Yeah, but that's something that I feel like I get asked a lot, is like, why do you post about Stretch so much if you don't buy it? And it's like, well, I do think this is a really great product. I've recommended it to my grandparents and, other elderly folks. And like Chris was saying, like it's a product for Wall Street. And I definitely think we're going to see the white labeling very soon. But yeah, if you're, I'm 24 years old, I have lots of time to be growing my money. And that's kind of my main goal right now. That's not something I'm allocating towards. It's Bitcoin, MSTR, etc. Even some, I got some call options. We were talking about, actually, my friend and I talked about this morning, the ASST 28 calls, Jan 28.
Yeah. Full disclosure, I think we've talked about before is, we were talking to Jeff Walton about this on the stream. We were like, like True North got started, and the main tagline, if someone asked when it was just Jeff and Ryquant starting the streams as the Quant Bros, is like, oh, those are the guys that went all in on MSTR leaps. And so I think it's always good to he's obviously still a strategy fan, very close with him. But it's always good to go back and say oh, what, that conviction led to Jeff really moving his career into this direction. And in the same way, we want to recommend the people do it, get educated in the right way, hold Bitcoin. But I think you have to be fair to the next generation and say, people took risks to get where they are. People took risks on Bitcoin when it was a high risk asset, when it was $10. So the next generation shouldn't just be like, hold this low risk asset once Bitcoin becomes, standardized money and is de-risked. There needs to be something that they're investing in. So still holding Strive calls. I have a mix of weeklies, monthlies next year, 2027s. I don't have any 2028s. I do think, the thesis of high beta to strategy, either we'll see how fast it would play out, but I do think that they could be the fastest moving horse, even though strategy is maybe the farthest along horse.
Yeah, I do think strategy will always outperform long-term Strive, just looking at the numbers, but that doesn't mean that Strive won't also see incredible returns. So, or rather with ASSC. Yeah, I think Chris had to leave, but we will finish out the show.
We'll get him back. Not today, but
Yeah,
after his
we'll get him
trip.
back on.
So other than that, so we were going to dive into a little bit of the China stuff. So when we were looking at last night, I think everyone's looking at the Boeing CEO and are they going to announce this huge Boeing deal to be able to sell a lot of planes to China? It makes you wonder. And then obviously, like before we get into anything else, NVIDIA hasn't been able to sell chips, which I think for national security reasons has made sense. NVIDIA is obviously the largest company in the world, 5.5 trillion or 5 something trillion. And that's like one chip that we have, like, quote unquote, is we have the best, tech when it comes to that in the world, but they can also take over Taiwan, who is one of the biggest or the biggest manufacturer with Taiwan Semiconductor of chips in the world. So this is weird, like game theory of what could play out. We were talking last night, the Bitcoin meetup, just around the one area or one of the key areas I feel like no one ever has a good gauge on is like, okay, China's really ahead. Like they're doing everything amazing. Their kids are more educated. They're better at STEM. They're better at vibe coding with AI. They understand AI better. They're going to like replace us. Manufacturing's better. But then on the other hand, they'll say their economy is just being propped up by a communist regime. The real estate market's going to fail anytime they've actually tried to do an open market. A lot of those have not done well. So all over the place. Ray Dalio is talking all the time. So it's really hard to say. I don't know how much is going to be just theater or if it's going to play out and actually, work on a new kind of world order.
Yeah. I've been lacking. I gotta follow this summit, but I do remember seeing I don't know who posted it, but someone was saying like, oh, Trump invited, tons of CEOs, but not Michael Saylor. People were a little upset about that, but I that just goes to show how early we are, right? Like,
yeah,
I don't think it's surprising at all.
I think they're all bargaining chips where who has the most stake, like Apple, like so much of their market's there. Boeing wants to sell planes.
Right.
And I think they want to come back and for it's all optics for the midterms. So having, I think being able to get on a stump speech and be able to say, hey, we just sold 45 billion worth of Boeing planes to China, even if we're suddenly giving away our highest tech chips and letting NVIDIA sell, like great for NVIDIA holders, but we're kind of, we don't want China to like have all of our greatest tech and be able to surpass us, technology wise. So I think I think Bitcoiners, at least what we talked about last night at the meetup was looking through that to see, okay, what are we actually giving up? Are we going to see, I think, a stock market bump afterwards of like, we're opening up China again. It's like a Henry Kissinger moment. But then is it, what are we giving up? And Jordan Erbs, our guest yesterday, said he was calling the Simon Dixon theory of like this meeting here is the reset of like the great reset of the, multipolar world. You would have, the Middle East, you'd have the East with China, and then you'd have the US as a power, but not trying to be the global superpower controlling everything. So there's a little bit deeper of like, okay, like, is it the plebs? Is it the people on the bottom of the rung? Is it honestly countries in Africa or like poor countries in South America that are going to like really be on the losing end of this situation because you have these large powers agreeing, well, someone typically is, on the losing end of closed door negotiations between
Right.
the big players.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. Who did you say the guest was yesterday?
Jordan Herbs, so great guy
Okay.
on the AI side, works for Venice AI, but also has his own company with AI Captain's Academy. So if you're getting into like OpenClaw or Maze Agent, great place to get started. And Simon Dixon is popular like
Yeah.
author that's putting forth this theory, which I think has some valid points to it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've been following a little bit of the geopoly with Bolt in our newsletter, but this will be an interesting week to talk about everything, breakdown. I got to do my actual analysis later this week when all this is wrapped up. But yeah, this is really interesting. I'm trying to look up some see if there's anything that's come out. It looks like Trump just wrapped up with his dinner. I'm trying to see. I don't really see anything too crazy. What's been your main takeaway from this? I know you said you guys were talking a lot about this at the meetup last night. What was the main chatter about?
Some of it was tied to what we talked about. People are asking around Bitcoin Vegas, what was consistent themes, and
Okay.
you had people on stage, but I think just a lot of the conversations with people on the floor, the plebs, the people coming in that we interviewed directly. A lot of it was war, right? And then having Bitcoin is a fixed money supply, hard money that would reduce the ability for countries to go to war, and so tying this into where people are looking at, okay, we saw what we've done in Iran, and we feel like it's just political theater. Why are we suddenly making such fast strides with Ukraine and Russia? Like what does Russia get out of this? Like what are we giving to them to start wrapping this up? Which it sounds like most people in the meetup agree. They're like, we don't trust anything we're seeing, and which we like. Very much everyone here is encouraging. They don't want war.
Yeah.
But they don't want like an outcome where it's just a few parties or a few political parties that are benefiting there. And then like looking at the China summit, how much of it is going to be one of the guys mentioned that there's a grand reception of Trump when he landed in China, but the vice president came to the airport and met him instead of Xi Jinping himself. And so people are speculating, okay, is it because Xi Jinping met Kim Jong-un from North Korea at the airport? So was there this power play, dynamic between them? Somebody also suggested that Xi Jinping had a stroke. He didn't look like he was like medically disabled when I was looking at the live stream of the meeting and the dinner.
Yeah.
But so that's where there's a lot of like speculation here. So we're not sure, but we're very much what they're telling us back of like grand reception is different than like what's actually on the ground of like people are looking at it. People are like looking at cameras and being like, oh, like Xi Jinping didn't travel to the airport. How much power do we have, or how much leverage do we have when they're going into these negotiations of what we agree to?
That's interesting. Yeah, I'm kind of more so like I see all of this and you see all of these big headlines and it's just like I really don't think anyone actually knows what's happening, like you said, behind closed doors. Even the headlines we'll get in the news that comes out of this by the end of the week. You just never know what's actually going on. But I just off topic, but I just saw Senate Banking Committee passes the Clarity Act in 15-9 vote. So the bill now goes to the full Senate.
Yeah. I mean, that's progress. We need that.
Yeah, definitely. And we had Senator Cynthia Lummis at the Women of Bitcoin event in Vegas, and she got an award that Natalie presented to her. And yeah, we're just so grateful for all of her contributions, and sad to see her go, but she's well deserving of a long retirement, a very relaxing one.
Yeah. I think it honestly is like, this is the kind of thing where you want to go out on this kind of bill. Hopefully they can get this passed and she can retire. She's put in a lot of work, and you want to have something to hang your cap on.
Definitely. definitely. But yeah, we're making progress.
And then just pulling this up
Yeah,
for some
love it.
reason, internet's a little slow. Tell us about, all right, so while I'm pulling this up, tell us
Okay.
about next week. What are you speaking on at the Bitcoin is for Everyone conference in Portland?
It's funny you ask. Okay, so I actually don't know. So you're just gonna have
On
to
the
come
spot. What are you
out.
gonna? Yeah,
You're
Seda.
I don't know actually. I gave the organizers 3 topics. So it'll be one of 3 topics, maybe multiple. I'm not sure if it'll be like a panel situation, if I'll be speaking with other people. Most likely, I think that's what it'll be, but it'll likely be either on like the future of Bitcoin and what this means for my generation and the one under me, or it'll be on digital credit, treasuries, and the future of that and the future of finance. Maybe both. And then the third topic would just be marketing, but I don't think they're going to go with that. So yeah, I guess you guys will just have to stay tuned and see what they end up choosing for me. I wish I could give you guys some more clarity, but we are super excited for that event. I'm really looking forward to the True North event too on Thursday. I'll be there.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a good time. You'll be there.
We'll be there.
Avi won't be there though.
Avi will not be there. Let's
Okay.
see. What is the True North website? Is it?
So
Oh,
if
T
you go
North is
to-
what it is.
Bitcoin is for everyone.
Oh, here we go. Bitcoin for businesses or Bitcoin for business, May 21st, an evening for business owners, operators, investors who want to understand how money works. And go.
Oh, there
So
you go.
how money works and what Bitcoin digital credit can mean for the decade ahead, hosted by Jeff Walton, CRO of Strive. So Iron Light in Lake Oswego, very nice part of Portland. And I guess different technical jurisdiction, but let's just say Portland for the average person. So Ben Workman, Joe Burnett's there.
Nice.
Solid crew. And this is great because I think this is an area where there's a big dinner last year in Portland for the conference. It's like maybe like Fogo de Chao, I think. And there was so much interest from like people locally in my Bitcoin meetup of like, traditionally, if they got on stage, they wouldn't say I'm the biggest digital credit fan. But when Jeff Walton was there at the dinner, and that's most of everything he's talking about, is very super interested. Like they really wanted to meet him. We sat down at a table together and all talked. There is, I think, this the Overton window of what's acceptable versus what's not acceptable is shifting. And so like the Overton window of and obviously in the content you make is like you have haters in the comments, but a lot of times they don't have profile pictures. And there's people not willing to like put their skin in the game and say, hey, I'm Jim Smith and I hate treasury companies or I hate Michael Saylor.
Well, you also wonder too, like you never know because I feel like a lot of these accounts just always look like bots to me. Like you said, they have no profile picture. They got like 9 followers. You always wonder too, like I wouldn't put it past some of these big banks to just, get out there and pay some people in India or East Asia to go out there and spread some FUD. Like I do think that is a real possibility with not only Bitcoin, but with the broader digital credit and treasury narrative.
Yeah, people do it. I feel like that's one of the easier things for for companies to do is just hire a bot farm to go out and do some mass misinformation. So I think I want to encourage people. Like I will say, I want to encourage Bitcoiners to still question. I think there's companies that are well operated. The team at Strategy and Strive are very professional. They're like very intelligent people. We've had plenty of conversations with them. Not every treasury company is going to have that. Not every decision made by a treasury company is going to do that. And so it's fair to question. So it's good to have the haters out there, always like verify, don't trust. But I think sitting in the Portland auditorium last year, I was very surprised at the amount of people that were very, very interested in Jeff Walton's presentation, interested in treasury companies overall, and didn't want to be talked down to, or they don't
Yeah.
want someone that's saying like you can't outperform Bitcoin. That's heresy. You know, like it's
Mm.
religious. You know, they see it as no, like there's people making a lot of money, and I'm willing to take more risk for like a slightly higher return. So we'll obviously be unpacking that every week. People will get burned. There are going to be treasury companies that fail. Like, let's be honest
Yeah.
here. But
Yeah.
it shouldn't be something that's a faux pas to talk about.
Right. That's awesome to see, though, especially at an event like, well, I've never been to this event, but just from the marketing of it, it sounds like it's an event for newcomers and people just kind of dipping their toes in the water. So that's really encouraging because I do feel like we see a lot of, the division, at least online, I see it with, some of the OGs and some of the like super hardcore cypherpunks and now what people would call the suit coiners, those,
Yeah,
driving the
suits.
narrative of the treasury companies and the preferreds and all that. So that's really cool to see. Was it like, were they just individuals who were, retail investors or businesses that you saw interested in Jeff's talk?
I think a lot of individuals. I think you pull in people.
Really?
Like we've had people in Oregon like drive from Portland or Eugene or other areas to our meetup, and
Oh,
so you
wow.
have people in the general area that are just very interested. And it's something we talk about of just like daily stack itself. Like we want to help people stack. We want to help them make good financial decisions, be talking about these things, get the right information. But in general, like we also want to talk about other things that are going on because people like the Bitcoin conference. They like Bitcoin meetups because there's a lot of independent thinkers, people are like open-minded. I think when people like open to talk about vaccines or government surveillance, like it's just a good community that's, very like libertarian, open-minded. So in the same way,
Yeah.
I think Bitcoin for Everyone conference for people, especially in the areas like Portland, Seattle, where there is a lot of groupthink. Living in San Francisco for a minute, I
Yeah.
experienced that groupthink of people that were supposedly open-minded, but only if you agreed with what they
Right.
agreed with. So the open-mindedness, I think, really pulls people in and piques their
Okay.
interest, even if they're not huge whales or huge holders of Bitcoin themselves. I had never met American Hodl until last year, and I didn't realize that. Yeah, he really resonates with a ton of people on Noster, and it was cool to see that. It was just like, oh, like here's people in the crowd and friends from our meetup. They're like, oh, American Hodl, he's like always got really good content. Does a lot of UGC style stuff and puts on Noster, but
That's
can be very
awesome.
brash and just refreshing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I totally resonate too with that. Like I'm from Southern California, went to school in LA, and like the groupthink is real. It's like if we welcome everybody until you disagree with the one narrative, and then it's like we
Yeah.
don't welcome you actually. It's crazy. I remember so in my final year my final semester at USC, I went to this like blockchain summit. It was like 2-day summit conference, and I was really like the only true Bitcoiner. Like this is a blockchain digital assets summit. And there were more people talking about Ethereum and Solana and all these other alts. And when I brought up Bitcoin, it was like oh my gosh, like how dare you? It was really not, it was frowned upon. And so, yeah, it's certainly annoying to be, in a group where if you don't agree with, the main thought, then you're not going to have any
Yeah.
influence.
One of the best things is like I think for it's like a funny thing to bring up, but like the show or the movie that was a classic was like Mean Girls. And the
Yeah.
funny thing is like how most people have I feel like most people have seen it and how it just applies. And eventually like the climax of the movie of like everyone's coming out at like this auditorium and speaking and everything, and like how people get like swept up in this like group think, and one person says this is bad, and they all get brought into it. And you've had that, like obviously you had the Salem witch trials, and I feel like when people bring new ideas up, that's what you get caught in. But then like the Overton window shifts, and I think now it's like one of the most confusing times with like how we are in the current administration, because I feel like it's a K-shaped economy where it's like there's reasons Trump was elected, but then I think there's also other reasons why people are against the war, and then there's other reasons why they don't if gas prices are high, they're going to be really mad about inflation going into the summer because of the oil shortage due to Iran. So
Yeah.
we're going to print money. I feel like there's never been more of a confusing time just to get a sense of a vibe check of what American people feel like right now on politics and everything,
Totally.
of what's kosher to say, what's woke and what's not woke.
I know. I really feel that. I feel like I've seen so much division within the two different political parties. Like you were saying, like you have now the people that, initially voted for Trump because XYZ, and it felt very homogenous, and same with, the people that, voted for the other party. And now it's like, it feels like both parties kind of break down into even more little different groups. And you have people now hating Trump because, oh, he didn't do what he promised. And now you have people hating Trump because we're in a war. And like you said, the gas prices, but then you have the other people that love Trump because we're in the war. And it's just, it feels so divided right now. Even, and then you add the crypto people into this, and then it's like, it's a disaster right now. But now more than ever would be the time to really think critically. And, I always like to say, question the incentives and go from there.
Final question on that topic. What's your source of news? Are you pure on who you follow on X? Like, what are you doing most often to like get unbiased news?
I would not say I'm like a diehard fan of anybody, just because I feel like, there's people, especially in the geopolitical world, there's those analysts that have this one mindset, and they just have a really difficult time ever stepping out of that and seeing things differently. And so I try to kind of pick and choose. There's this girl I follow. Let me see if I can pull up her handle. She's really good. She's always questioning lots of things. Morgan, her handle is Morgan C000. She's an independent analyst, does media forensics. She has a really great Substack. Cynthia Chung is someone I like to follow. Alex Craner. But yeah, I try not to like just be like a diehard fan of anybody, because then you just get, siloed into this one narrative. And I really like to look at things with a bird's eye view and be able to think critically about something. And I used to listen to podcasts a lot, but I don't really listen to podcasts anymore. It's mostly just Twitter. And then, if I see a headline that's interesting, then I'll go do some research on it, go through Substacks, but can't say I'm following like one or two particular people.
Yeah. I think it's hard with AI because it's never been easier to get really good information and like set up processes to get information, so like now I'm setting up Hermes agent, which talked about yesterday, and having a great experience. It's been awesome. Just like open call alternative, a harness you're pulling in, giving a way to like have structured prompts that continuously go out. So in the morning, get like a daily briefing. So getting in the latest news, and I'm on the West Coast, so I'm trying to catch up all the time. So I'm always like going through. But at the end of the day, this is an LLM that's from OpenAI on the back end for whoever I'm plugging in, and so they're choosing it. So super interesting thing was Venice AI, which Jordan Erb's guest yesterday works at, has an uncensored model. And so pulling out the censorship pieces of it, and so allowing like to not be like affected by what's going on.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's another thing, is like just seeing the different LLMs, the way that they respond to the same question or the same news headline is really interesting. But yeah, I have a little Claude daily briefing as well, but I should probably change it to give me like the more macro headlines. Mine right now is just like finance headlines, stuff happening in private credit, private equity, all that. But yeah, what should we leave the viewers with? What's been our takeaway from today?
Takeaway from today is daily divs. If you want a daily stack, we might be rolling out a SATA tracker. We did have we put out some memes of there's a new stress tracker released every day, but now we might have to do it down in our stock ticker below, or something really big. Our intro will have a SATA tracker, but daily dividends, I think awesome.
Yeah.
Chris's point though is like, and what we agreed to is, look, like if you're young and to our audience that we're trying to bring into Bitcoin, I don't think it's the time in the cycle to necessarily be holding it unless you're trying to
No.
make a house down payment soon, or you have, specific large purchases that need to happen. You're paying for college, like in the short term. Honestly, hold Bitcoin. It's at 81. I'm bullish that we're gonna have to print money, and so people are gonna
Yeah.
want to front run that.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And you guys will see me post about Stretch and SATA a lot just because I think they're really incredible products for the right people. And I think what SATA did with the daily divs is, I mean, they're changing history. Like this has never been done before. And so you'll see me post about that, but don't assume that means I'm telling you guys to go get it. I just think it's really cool and, interesting for the banks, interesting for older folks who don't have that time horizon. But you're 24, you're Gen Z, definitely just buy as much Bitcoin as you can. No financial advice, but also there's better products for growing your money than Stretch and SATA. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
SATA basically just got rid of volatility. So incredible.
Make it appealing for the average, institution. Let's look at so our friends over Predicts sponsor the show and the prediction market of choice for Bitcoiners, all based on sats. So what we're looking at is the market on Predicts for the Bitcoin May high. Now, 80 to 85 is 56%. 85 to 90K is 33%. So these are both up today now that we've gotten back over it. I think people yesterday were discouraged because we dropped down to 79. And now we're back up. 81, what is the 81,449. So I think people are encouraged. I think that they think this will last. I do. I think that they're going to pump the market coming back from the China trip, whether it's good, a good deal or not for us. They're going to say it's a good deal, and it's going to continue. I do think it's going to be K-shaped though. So look out for a lot of semiconductors ripping, Micron continuing. Cerebras just went public today, and Cerebras, IPO'd at 180. Now it's at 350, and it's already been halted. So
holy
the market's,
crap.
Market's rabid right now. It's not going to last forever. So be very careful. Don't get over leveraged. Watch what you're doing. But there's appetite there.
Yeah.
And I think as much as we can de-risk, or as much as the geopolitical landscape is de-risked, people are going to be risk on until they have a reason not to be. And so just be very careful, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. And no financial advice, but
yeah. All right, everyone, we'll be back tomorrow. I need to see who we have tomorrow on the show. But Paulson's going to be rolling out something with Bitcoin Quant that's
next
an
couple
updated
weeks.
digital credit page. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then we're going to be rolling out maybe a SATA tracker because like daily divs sound really good for daily stack. We want people to be stacking daily. Jonathan Morgan is our guest today. Thank you, producer. And tomorrow. And we got a few other things cooking. We're going to start doing like heavier on treasuries on Thursdays, have like some of the best treasury guests. We're going to be releasing some really good episodes that we haven't, that were on the live stream, but we're going to package them up nice on YouTube. And give us some follow, give us some ideas, and we'll see you guys also in Portland if you're going to be at the Bitcoins for Everyone's conference.
Yes, I will see you guys in Portland next week.
Amazing. All right, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Have a good one.